Yeah, 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 yeah. No way to slow down. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Let's mute that. Is the Jethro Tull music coming through? Greetings, Steve Hershey. How are you, my friend? Steve, I always do a little sound check with the first person who's here. Do you have some Jethro Tull? Okay, good. So only I can hear that. Actually, if I hit this button, what happens if I hit this button? I think you get the Jethro Tull, but then I'm in. I am in Slapback. The Shuffling Madness. This way, yeah, I have Slapback up. This way, Facebook will get all mad because I played 13 seconds of copyright music. It's really, the whole thing is so fucked, right? I'm all for, of course, attribution to artists and all that, but so here we go, folks. How are you today? Let's see. Bang, bang, bang. How are you, my friends? It's good to be alive. Good to be here. Steve, how about that? Your dear mom says hello. Well, hello back. I won't belabor the point of her being just my favorite teacher, really, of all time. She was for those of you who don't know, my college professor, my first year going. I failed out of Rutgers engineering and I went to Middlesex College for computer science. And Steve's mom was one of my first teachers, and we had a couple classes with her. And beyond the assembly language and ASCII knowledge and strange computer math and all that, just a wonderful human being, and just had to help me get a great outlook on dealing with life through a rational, or including a rational, logical kind of a template on things. Just really understanding logic. So hello to your whole family, Steve, and everyone. It's good to be here. I'm here on it's Mayday, or it's a couple days from Mayday, so we're calling it Mayday. We got some cool stuff. Wow, so many things happening. I look at all these vegan news sites and a couple Instagrams that I follow, and it's truly remarkable what is happening. I say this every week, right? That we've got a lot of cool stuff happening. Let's see. I want to make it so I can see your comments all the time. I've got veg news up here because it's always great shit. Vegnews.com, by the way, folks, is something I want to make sure you know about. And there's just so many cool websites. But that one's good because they pull together, they kind of aggregate, I believe is the word. They pull together all kinds of stuff. And I also wanted today, I'll go ahead and share this screen. Where is it? Wanted to talk a little bit about, the inspiration of this show is, of course, Meatless Monday, which I didn't think up, but it's a thing that's been, just out there. I heard people talk about it years ago when, of course, many of you know I was natural foods professional. So for over 15 years working in retail, organic food, natural food, plant-based um, health solutions and herbal medicines and all kinds of stuff. Books, we had recipes, we had a juice bar and a salad bar and a soup kitchen. But one of the things that came up all the time was Meatless Monday, So someone came up with this, I think in the 80s maybe, but a very cool website. I've got my own website, by the way. I've got a few, but I've got meatlessmondaymeetup.com, and I always have some stuff on there, but just some links and things. But Meatless Monday on the Monday campaigns is really cool because it goes through this recipes. They connect it, as I do every week, to climate change. They connect it to what's new. An exciting thing lately has been this plant-based seafood sort of thing. Now, there's already plants in the sea that we eat, right? There's all the wonderful things in Japanese cuisine and in African cuisine and Scottish cuisine, and the people on the east coast of Africa have collected seaweed for centuries, and there's other people, whether it's Greece or Southeast Asia, where they use different plants from the sea. And there's an exciting new grain that someone has discovered it's the seed of some seagrass, and someone did some testing on it, and it's of course edible, and it's high protein, and it grows everywhere on Earth because we have coastlines everywhere on Earth. So that's exciting news, and I'm going to try to share that today. Too many things on the list, I know, but then there's this plant-based seafood idea, which is people doing, and again, the semantics gets interesting, but you can say an imitation, a simulacrum. You can say a replicant. You could, for us, Blade Runner fans, it replacement. Anything you want to say. But there's an explosion in stuff. I just saw a vegan salmon that I'm going to let people know about, and there's and these are things made from plant-based things, whether it's legumes or nut-based stuff, or coconut. I've seen some things using young coconut, the young coconut, that jelly kind of a consistency, right? There's people taking that and marinating it and doing like vegan ceviche and things like that. I mean, if you've ever had a fresh coconut, like really fresh, where you drink that coconut water and you cut it open and there's a jelly in there. And, where I'm from in Guyana, and where I've lived in Trinidad and Jamaica, that's a staple. You drive down the road, there's a guy, and it's, 3 for $1, or, very inexpensive. And they chop the top off, and you drink that coconut water, and you then cut it open, and there's jelly, and it's very, again, it's amazing that chefs haven't, on a global scale, used these more, even in countries like Jamaica and Trinidad, where I've been to natural foods restaurants and things like that. Of course, you don't really you see coconut, you see shredded, the kind of coconut that we're familiar with buying in a store. You see that kind of thing, and but the jelly is a whole other thing. And so anyway, you have all these new ideas for plant-based versions of things that people are familiar with, that they want to use in recipes, whether it's caviar or salmon or the texture of lobster, whatever. We're kind of in this amazing time when, like anything else, once you have a lot of people working on the same problem, or is it a problem? Would I classify it as that? The same venture. We have a lot of people working on something, and we've reached that critical mass, I think, on planet Earth, where there's people all around the Earth in every culture saying, how do I get more plant-based versions of the food I grew up with? And when you have, again, you have people in Ghana and Germany and Scotland and Iceland and Canada and Mississippi and Japan and Mexico and El Salvador and Paraguay and Senegal and India and all around planet Earth, Poland and Russia, when you have all these folks saying, let's see, we've got this bean or this thing that comes from you know, a tree, or this other thing, this special nut that only grows in this eastern part of Russia, and but when you marinate it and steam it, it gets a texture like this, and then people using mushrooms and all kinds of things. So I think we're reaching this critical mass where there's that many more people saying, "Hey, is there an alternative here?" And it's great. We're seeing the results. You're seeing stuff from all around the world, all these different cultures. Really amazing. So that's one of the things I always talk about. So Meatless Monday, their website. That's what's been on the screen while I'm talking, but I'm gonna uh, let you check that out if you so desire on your own time. Um, Beautiful. Look at that. Does anyone else do you just feel a sense of calm and satiation? Is that the word? Do you feel satisfied seeing that? Wow. That never gets old for me, folks. Look at that. That's it. That's what I'm grateful for. It's what I crave. It's what um, again, I'll say it, besides grateful, thankful. Just what a planet where these organisms have taken the ultimate energy source in our solar system, the sun, and they directly transform light, sunlight, into physical manifestation, into reality, through this wonderful mechanism, photosynthesis. And then we have these millions of just this. It's what's the word? Fractal. It's fractal math. The various and infinite versions of plant life, but they all share that in common, right? Photosynthesis at some level, chlorophyll on some level, just amazing. And so the leaves and the fruits and the um, seeds of these organisms. I mean, it's just right there. That's how simple. You're one step removed from the sun, eating these amazing foods. So yeah, I love these kinds of pictures because they ground me and remind me that you can do this. You can live and thrive. I mean, there it is. This picture. It's a great picture they put together, isn't it? Because it's all there. I see protein, fat. I see, of course, lots of fiber. I see fat soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K. I see vitamin C. I see all these crucial minerals. I see potassium and magnesium, selenium. Uh, you know, wow, that's the amazing thing. We all have these things. You read these articles, and there's another article saying, "Get more of this, get more of that." Americans are deficient in this and that. Here it is. That's it right there. Everything you could possibly list in terms of omega fatty acids, again, minerals, polyphenols, carotenoids, uh, 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 again, vitamins, A to Z. There it is. it's to me, it's amazing. So there you go. That's Meatless Monday. So I want to let's see. Let me go back and put that in the chat, the link, so you have that. Here we go. I know how to paste. Yep, there we go. So check that out, and let's say hello to some folks. Bassam, what's up, bro? Here we go with that science stuff again. I know, right? Eric Tucker, what's up, my bro? You have a tempeh sausage pizza. Oh man, time to get out to the Bay Area. Vegan cheese. Wow, did you see my topic, Eric? I don't know if that was a coincidence, but today I'm talking about the explosion in vegan cheese. Eric, if you're still here, I'm sure you saw that article in the New York Times, which I'm about to link. I'm sure you did. I'm sure 25 people brought it in to Millennium. And it's very cool news because, we've reached this tipping point again where all these artisan cheesemakers are getting involved and making these incredible French type cheeses, these kind of, Roquefort and Brie and Camembert and all these kind of stinky cheeses, as they call them. So that's happening. And using cashew as a base, using almonds, using coconut, using all kinds of, just plant sources, So, all right, let's look for that. Let me come back to some comments. Let's see. Let's see my keyboard. All right, good. How come? All right, here's all your comments. Okay, Sabine, how are you? Welcome from Deutschland. Well, that pizza looks damn good. Thank you for that. Eric Tucker. Folks, check that out. Eric just put a great link of a delicious Instagram link. Wow, that does look good. That's a restaurant in the Bay Area, by the way, folks. If you're in, is it in Berkeley now? I forget. It used to be in San Fran, and they moved to, I forget the town, but either Berkeley or next door to Berkeley. And it's a plant-based, incredible restaurant. Okay. Let me know if my internet is glitching because it's acting slow on my end. Tell me if I'm glitching here. Oh. People doing, friends of mine doing gigs. People are sending the pictures in. It's starting to happen. All right. So hit me with some questions. As usual, one of our themes is, what did you have for lunch? I had, I just had kale and some pickles today. I had a bunch of amazing, we love pickles here. We love pickled food. We're going to have someone on that's a specialist in fermented food, pickled food in a couple weeks. But we love pickle food. You've heard me talk about pickles all the time. I talk about sauerkraut, kimchi. I talk about umeboshi plums. I talk about umeboshi plum vinegar, apple cider vinegar, kombucha. I talk about Rejuvelac. Once you're on the wheatgrass kind of zone, you get into things like that. I talk about miso and tempeh, which are both fermentation foods. Wine is a plant-based fermented food that we don't talk about enough. I should do one of these shows on wine. This is one of the few streams I do, by the way, with that without a cocktail. Hey, speaking of Germany, Jeff Aug, what's up, my friend? Jeff, where are you, man? Are you in Germany also? That's so cool. You said no gigs here till October unless you count streams. I know, bro. Don't get me started, Jeff, because I'll spend my whole 2 hours going like, what the fuck? But yeah, I got friends playing gigs with rooms full of people with no masks in a country with, I think we're about 45% vaccinated. Is that being hopeful even? It's more like 40, you know. And I get it. I want to be out. My career depends on rooms full of people. So you know, I'm on that team. But I am also on team science, and we're just not ready yet. There's 10 variants floating around. More than half of us Americans are not vaccinated. They're basically saying that they can't promise that the vaccines protect us against all of the variants. And I read a lot about this, and the vibe seems to be, hold up, just give us some time. We're still checking numbers. We think we're pretty sure. What's that? Legal says we can't say that. Okay, we're relatively sure. No, we can't say that. No. Hmm. Hmm. Can we use that? All indications are that these vaccines will protect you against 6 or 7 of the variants. The other 3 we're still working on, but just please be careful for a little while longer. Wear your masks. Don't be in crowds of unknown people with no mask. Just give us a little time. We're still working on this. That, correct me if I'm wrong, that's the vibe I'm getting from the virologists, the biologists, the experts, the scientists. They're saying it's yin yang. They're saying great news. Millions of vaccines, hundreds of millions are happening in the USA, and that's great. But they're also saying that other piece that I won't belabor the point like Rachel Maddow and say it all over again. Yeah, you know, I'm happy to keep on being careful. I'm so happy to have been vaccinated. You know, we can go into the whole thing on that. And, you know, 2001, Andre, would be pretty amazed because I wasn't virulently anti-vax back then when that was kind of the middle of running a health food store. I just thought we were overdoing it. I thought we should be a lot more careful. There should be a lot more regulation. You know, I just thought, you know, should a child get 6, 8, 10 vaccines? Let's wait a bit. Let children have natural immunity. So I think I had a balanced view on it. I was very cognizant that vaccines have stopped smallpox and polio and in many places things like malaria and Zika and stuff like that. But so anyway, I'm happy to have been vaccinated in this fucking global emergency. This is an emergency. People have lost sight of that. In their zeal to be back at the beach or back at the bar because it's their right. It's their God-given right. This is what we do. This is what we do. I'm tired of this. Wow. This will go down in history, man. What a selfish, petulant, childish bunch of people. The ones who say those kinds of things. I'm not talking about everyone. I'm just saying the ones who, you know, say it's their birthright to not be being careful. So having said that, you know, here we are inside, and I really have to look it up. I'm really pushing. I think I started doing this show actually in the summer, so we'll do a big anniversary if you care to show up. So back to your comments. What did you have? So we were talking about pickles, and I went into fermentation, and then I started babbling about vaccines. But I love fermented food. Oh my God! You know, again, talk about it almost every show. Sauerkraut, wow, kimchi. But anyway, we found this pickles company called Grillo's. Do you know Grillo's? The grill of my dreams. Grillo's is a company out of Massachusetts somewhere, and we found their pickles, and they make these incredible, just wow, crisp, delicious, fresh pickles. And we make pickles. By me, I mean Robin. we've grown cukes here, and she used some of our actual cucumbers. We didn't have many. The yield was kind of low, but she took fresh cukes, and I bought some more, and we made pickles. Um, that's our chosen pronoun. I say we, but I really mean that she did it. But I do some cooking too, though. But the uh, pickles, pickles, pickles. I will always um, talk about those. The other thing is they are so good for you, right? Look it up. Fermentation, fermented food. It's a great way to preserve food. It's an ancient way to preserve food. Very healthy way to preserve food. And it maintains, unless it's a pasteurized pickle, it maintains the uh, uh, enzymes and a lot of the things that go away from cooking. Um, so so here's for those of you in the USA, if you can find this, I could not recommend. I mean, I love Bobby's and I love Batemti and I love there's some great kosher dills. I mean, even Boar's Head, they're okay. We get their bread and butter sometimes, and we get a few. They're okay. I like my line is no food coloring, no yellow dye, no bullshit like that. Let it be an old school, just vinegar, water, salt, dill, garlic, things like that. So this company here, Grillo's, man, oh man, if you like pickles, like I like pickles, and you're in the U.S., look for these people. This shit is it's the bomb. They're just the bomb. Grillos. So and you could just make out the ingredients there. What is it? Cukes and brine, which is distilled white vinegar, salt, garlic, dill, hot peppers, grape leaves. That's a unique thing too. They put grape leaves and dill in there, like actual big leaves of dill, like you're in Russia or something. And I eat it all. So this is what I had for lunch. I had about, I don't know, 3 of these pickles, and we got the whole ones, we got the sliced ones. We try out the different ones. But down on the bottom there, you've got a pickled habanero, I think, and some grape leaves and some dill. I ate it all. It was delicious. It was pickled dill. Who thought I'd have that when I woke up? But so that's my plug today. My unrewarded plug for Grillo's pickles. They are truly amazing, just fresh, you know, crunchy. And they have these other little things they make. Pickle de gallo. I've never had this, but they make a salsa. They just, obviously you could do that yourself. That gets a little stupid on the packaging. But big up to a company that's doing an incredible plant-based, everything they make. I looked on their site before. Everything is plant-based. They don't sell it like that, but so cool. I mean, and I love when anyone has this kind of a mission statement. Look at that. Clean ingredients, 0 preservatives. Actually, I love that they say 0 artificial preservatives, because salt is a preservative. Vinegar is a preservative. And that's an important thing as we talk about natural living, is that let's not be afraid of the word preservative, right? What we should be concerned about is artificial preservatives, right? Preservatives that are, you take it case by case, because I don't even want to say chemically designed, because if you make your own salad dressing, you just chemically designed a compound with preservatives. How about that, huh? You don't think of it that way, but if you take oil, vinegar, garlic, salt, dill, a bit of horseradish, some mustard, and you mix it all together, you've just created a compound with preservatives in it. You just made something with chemicals. So, I think sometimes you have some real snarky jackasses who are against natural foods, and they love to play that game. They love to say, everything's a chemical. This telephone's organic. I just don't get that kind of nonsensical snark. And I know for people who do that kind of thing. So we need to combat that with more intelligence, with more fact-based supportive science. And so it's about understanding that the word preservative is not in and of itself a bad word. You do want to preserve your food. And humans have developed various methods of that from antiquity. The first one is drying your food, right? Like just whether with the sun or with heat. And then I don't know if it's the first one, but it's an early one. It's a simple one, so it goes way back. And then salt. Once early humans realized the value of salt and how you can salt both flesh foods and vegetable foods, and then you were able to eat them months, years later. That's a global technique, using salt. You make sauerkraut with just salt and water and cabbage, or you can at least. So anyway, I love that they make that clear here, and they say 0 artificial preservatives. There we go. So good stuff. Anyway, Grillo's, here's their, oh, I didn't know this. They have a drink. They have a pickled drink. You're talking my language. Yeah, here's the little history. So man, they're doing it. Anyway, that's my love for Grillo's that I'm sharing with y'all. And we actually wrote them. Robin called or wrote them because one thing is their containers are a little annoying to open up. They're really, you just got to really, they fill them to the top with liquid, so you just got to do it near the sink or kind of, because some of the brine always pops out. And she wrote them, and they wrote back saying, yeah, we get that a lot. You can even see in the picture, right? The brine goes right to the top. By the way, I reuse these containers. These are the hard plastic. So I believe they're made of recycled plastic, as a lot of these things are. And they're certainly recyclable. So I do that, but I keep them, and we use them to plant stuff, and we use them as little utility containers for water, for gardening, and cleaning up, and just all kinds of stuff. So in terms of the garbage, because one of the things I want to talk about today is garbage and recyclability, and how in some states they don't really recycle shit. They just put it right in the landfill, So anyway, so we have a couple things there. Well, I've got a buddy of mine stopping in, actually, and his name's Pete Brunelli. He's gonna be my unannounced guest today. I guess I just announced it, but we're gonna bring Pete in, and that's a good segue because I was just talking a little bit about recycling and garbage, and Pete is going to talk about that. Pete is a waste expert and an avant-garde jazz expert, so we might get into that a little bit too. but hey, Pete, can you hear me?
Oh yeah, perfectly.
Awesome.
Great to see you. Great to see you.
Great to see you, bro.
A real treat.
That's awesome. Let's see. Well, give me a minute. You're a little early, which is great.
Well,
I have extra time with you, but I'm just going to wrap up this one other thought
absolutely.
and put an article up for people. So again, folks, we got my dear friend Pete Brunelli here. We're going to have him on talking about all kinds of things. But I'm going to circle back around this, but I want to put a link up for people. And I also want to go back to your comments and see what people are saying there. We're talking about, chemistry, right? Sabine says, if a water molecule splits into H3O and OH, you even got an acid and a base. Crazy shit. Yes, you lost me there, but I remember that. I remember acids and bases are just a couple molecules away. Well, we have a man with Pete. Are you a chemist? Do you have a chemistry degree or a biochemist?
I'm a biologist by my degree. I worked as a chemist out of college doing analytical chem. I then went to into the environmental. I worked at doing environmental analysis. Then I went to work doing environmental consulting, and for the past 27 plus years, I've worked for the state of Connecticut in the Department of Environmental Protection, now the Department of Energy and Environmental Protection.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so and I really like been following along while I've been wrapping up some stuff here, and
Oh,
you're just hitting on so many things that are, you wouldn't think it, right? But you're hitting on so much stuff that is key to this. I worked, so just a very super briefly, was that I worked in chemistry. I worked in on what I call like on the ground street level, like environmental consulting, like inspecting properties and
okay.
determining the extent of contamination and working at, gas stations with leaking tanks and stuff like that. And then in the working for the state of Connecticut, I've worked in air quality programs, climate and energy, or climate policy and programs, energy policy and programs, air quality policy and programs, and now waste policy and programs. So it's been a real interesting, and if you know me, like it's that perfectly is the deal, because I can't be on one thing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been able to kind of be me there, and when there's something new that pops up, I'm pretty much there and ready for it.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, very cool. I mean, it's really interesting because we've had brief conversations about this, or conversations about, you know, up front, I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan. I'm just somebody
Sure.
who eats a lot of vegetables.
Sure.
And
And just to interrupt you, and for other people, sorry, and to say, and up front, this show is not just for vegetarians. Just to remind any new viewers, this is for anyone who is saying, I want to maybe eat meatless once in a while, but more that I want to eat quality foods, local foods, all that. So yeah, sorry to interrupt, but just for anyone not that doesn't know that listening. But sorry, go ahead though, Pete.
Yeah, that's the drill. The drill is, I think I chimed in once before about,
Sure.
my ancestry is Italian,
Sure.
and then Italian American. And I cracked up the other day on YouTube. I saw there's this little series from England called Pasta Grannies. So if you ever want to watch like Italian nonas and nonos knocking out like homemade pasta,
Sure.
and really get your game together, you watch these women who are like literally, some of them are like well into their 90s,
Sure.
on the board just
Yeah.
crushing pasta. It's beautiful.
I've seen it like in Italy. I've seen it, but yeah, I'll watch that.
And I grew up around it, and my parents grew up around it, and my grandparents lived it every day.
Yeah.
But there was a comment about a dish that this woman was making, and it had some meat in it, not a lot. It had some
Okay.
meat in it. And they asked her about, like, did you make these dishes every day? And she laughed. Meat during the week? Are you
Right.
kidding me?
Exactly.
Like, it was not, this was something that was done on an as available, how to get protein into your diet in a region or a part of the world where it was protein scarce.
Right.
Okay. This was not, they weren't going down to the grocery store and getting, huge slabs or portions of processed animal, protein for
Sure.
nothing. It did not exist.
Of course.
Did not
And,
exist.
and as you know, I'm a big fan of food history, and one of the things that was so important, especially in Italy, are lentils.
Oh,
Roman army going back, thousands of years. There were times because they were easy to carry.
right.
You needed nothing at all but water to
Right.
prepare them.
No soak, no nothing.
And they're high in protein.
Got lentils.
So, yeah, no, that's a great story.
I just say we. I'm not speaking for the huge variety of the Italian diaspora, but
Of course.
but my
That's
family,
clear.
were people that
Yeah.
I can that I've had
Sure.
my life with.
Hmm.
I mean, eating every kind of bean you can put your hands
Of
on.
course. Yeah.
Every kind of potatoes,
Yeah.
beans. Like I have a quart container of kale I just knocked off in the fridge.
Yeah.
You can get it thanks to juicers. You can get like a gigantic head of kale for like $1.99.
Right.
And I don't juice it, I eat it, right?
Sure. Sure.
So I mean,
Likewise.
it's
The,
just all these things are out there. But the thing that, and we'll seg it into the waste part, but
right.
these are the traditions there were A, out of necessity, and B, hyper local, right?
Right.
They ate, they were foragers
Yeah.
and still are. The most famous green of the southern Italian estate is like a puntarello, which is like a weed, right?
Right.
It's grown now, like it's been cultivated, but this is like a dandelion. It's
Mm-hmm.
these are just like when you go into
Sure. Fescue and all these
Asian
things.
market, you're going to see Asian pickles, like a kimchi, whatever, right? You're going to see, or pickled beans, or whatever. You're going to see all these pickled products.
Yeah.
You're going to see all these leafy green products. You're going to see all these root vegetable products. And then you walk into an Italian market and you see the pickled products like you were just talking about.
Yeah.
You see the beans, you see the greens, you see the root vegetables.
Yeah.
These are the most affordable, B, the most nutritious. And if you were having animal protein, you're having meat, I always say, like, you saw it. Now again, Italian Americans can put away some meat, the ones that I know, right?
Again, yes, and that gets into a whole.
But the common way to present those vegetables is, if there is meat, it's like as a condiment,
right? And I
think total minor player. So taking it out is the normal dish.
Absolutely, and I think the key word,
potatoes, greens, those things you see constantly.
Oh,
every form of beans and greens, minestrone, whatever.
Yeah,
it's always seeing veg, and then but that whole thing of Italian American food was coming from extraordinary scarcity, extraordinary abundance, and then just kind of having like a freak out.
Yeah, and a wonderful volcanic is it a peninsula technically? I mean, we could argue about that. A wonderful volcanic environment that just grew incredible food. But no, tracking with you totally, and don't forget, my dear departed other half of 20 years, Sherry was Italian, so her grandmother and the pickled peppers and the pickled squash and a million different things, and the broccoli rabe, and sending you home with the amazing and us saying we're vegetarian wasn't even a blink. She didn't even blink, because like you said, she just said, okay, I'll give you 8 of the dishes I've made today. I just won't give you the last 2. But yeah, and I love what you said, hyper local, because it's in the backyard. Dandelion greens, broccoli rabe, all these things, or you got it just very, very local. Right. No, that's it's one of the greatest cuisines. Another thing you said is very important. You said Italian Americans here in America, and you said putting away some meat. And I talk about this all the time. That's actually one of the things that's true about Jamaican Americans and Japanese Americans and Chinese Americans and German Americans. And people come to America, because I go to all those other countries.
Yeah, same here.
And people come to America and they suddenly quadruple their meat, because it's bound up with affluence and availability. And you could be at the fucking gas station and there's a hot dog, 2 for $1. So, so there's a whole thing. But you go to all these other countries and absolutely they do eat animals, but it's, as you say, it's a treat. It's on Fridays, or it's 3 times a week, things like that. Yeah.
I spent 2 weeks in China back in 2007, the year ahead of the Olympics.
Oh.
And they were very interested in Westerners, specifically Americans, because there were a lot of Chinese trying to get their English chops together.
Wow.
Fantastic time. I didn't pick up a fork in 2 weeks. It was
okay.
Fantastic. But I also because I was there with we weren't there with like I was there with our little, it was like 7 of us.
Okay, I remember that. I remember when you went.
Sandy's Tai Chi teacher is Chinese,
mm-hmm.
so we didn't have a barrier. We told him, hey, we want to have what they have here. We don't want the tourists.
Americanized.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. So he would take us to all the places that didn't even have like like it's the flipped over. Like here's a Chinese restaurant that has a Chinese menu
Oh,
the secret
yeah.
menu.
Yeah.
There, right? You just have it's just Chinese food. It's for Chinese food for Chinese people, which by the way, that's all there is in China. We checked. Like,
Well, yes.
oh,
No, and a favorite topic of mine, and it's funny, we were just watching a documentary. I'll send it to you if this doesn't sound familiar, but it was talking about Chinese immigration and talking about these horribly racist laws that were passed in America 120 years ago or so,
mhm.
100 years.
Yeah, Asian Exclusion Act, stuff like
Yeah,
that.
but there was a loophole that if you owned a retail business or a restaurant, you can come in and bingo, millions of Chinese said, guess we're opening a restaurant. And this documentary it was showing like in the most remote parts of America, that's why you have Chinese food, because the Chinese folks in the middle of Dakota, Utah, Arkansas, Mississippi said, well, here's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
But to your point though of the food over there is, it's not the Americanized version.
It's also fantastic vegetable cuisine, like
Right.
fantastic vegetable.
I
Now, again,
Yeah.
I was there with 2 vegetarians.
Right.
It got tricky.
Yeah.
Like, they don't really. I don't want to say they, but in the
Right.
main, we did not see we just saw it's a vegetable dish.
Right.
It might have some meat product in it.
Yes. And it also is always important to point out in these moments, it depends where you are, because
Yes.
you were in a country, what is that, twice the land mass of the United States, 3 times?
Yeah, it's
So-
freakish.
Yeah. And what I've learned in some of these countries, just like here, just like in the U.S., if you're in Maine or Vermont talking about cuisine, or Mississippi or Arizona, totally different things will happen. That's absolutely true. So I've seen that in Japan too. What you're saying, where some cities it's really impossible to navigate something without fish. You go to another place. So tell the audience a little bit. Did you the academic or the scientific reasons you were there? Because you were there for a few reasons, right?
No, we were there. We were there with a. It was normally a trip that the Tai Chi school runs. And that particular year, it was undersubscribed, and it wasn't sure it was going to happen. It turned out that we were able to go because we were like basically acting like we were there. We weren't there on business, but it was also delivering a gift from a Chinese American adoption agency.
Oh,
where we visited and delivered a gift to a Chinese orphanage.
Okay.
Which
It's
was
coming back to me.
Still a lifetime experience. Like just and the whole thing, especially at that time when, this is 13 years ago and so much has changed.
Absolutely. Politically, and
but like you have and I have that. It changed. Anthony Bourdain, like travel changes you.
Yes.
It changes you because A, you see how different things are, and B, you see how similar things are.
That's right. No, as you know, I'm a huge fan of his, and
so
yeah,
very, very, those are great experiences to have, even if you're not there physically, but to just look at it with that idea towards it's not really that different.
Yeah.
It's more of an analog that you need to get your head around. But yeah, so obviously I'm very connected to and interested in the foods people eat, the ingredients they eat, the ingredients they purchase, how they use them, how they prepare them, and what do they do with it.
Yeah,
I know. The professional side, and this is exploding in the waste management sector, which is that everywhere that they do what's called a waste composition study or a waste audit, right, where they basically go to where your garbage goes,
right,
take a load with a bobcat, dump it out on the ground, and then sort it into bins. So they say they're looking to get the percentage composition, so they're taking it at different times of the week, different times of the day, and grabbing, say you grab 30 loads over the course of a week, and then you come up and say, for the trash we analyzed, it's this percentage paper, this percentage plastic,
Yep.
this percentage food, this percentage textiles, everything, right? So there's usually like 30 categories. Well, food waste ends up being the overwhelmingly
Yeah.
largest chunk in almost every one of these studies. If not, it's right there at the very, very top, like
Yeah.
38%.
Yep.
So as the capacity, right, of waste processing facilities starts really groaning under the strain, right? We're not building a lot more. The idea is, well, we want less waste. Well, what would be the thing that we could get out of the trash?
Yeah.
So it turns out that food waste is a, you know, public, it's seen as like a very high proportion of the waste stream, and it's seen as the kind of thing that you could possibly get access to divert, right? So that's
Well, yeah.
diversion, right? So we call that in the waste, that's called diversion from disposal,
Yeah.
which is different than recycling, but it's means
Absolutely.
get it out of the
The
primary
stream. Yeah.
and it brings up all of these really interesting issues, because there's the, and I feel like just to cycle back, and this will just take me like 30 seconds or a minute, which is that when we go back talking about the, you know, the old timers who were growing their own food, they didn't throw anything away. The scraps all went back in the garden.
Yep.
You would never put junk in your garden, right? You would never throw motor oil in with
Yeah.
your vegetable scraps or pieces of metal or anything like that, right?
Yeah.
You wanted good, you knew that you were returning those nutrients to the earth. If you compost in your yard, we go through all this stuff individually, but if you compost for yourself, you're doing that, which is basically what you're doing as a home gardener.
Yeah.
If you are at a community garden, yeah, you're doing the same thing. Now you have a slightly larger group of people who are collecting their food scraps, bringing them, and usually it's an open pile, some form of aerobic or anaerobic pile composting, or maybe a drum.
Yeah.
And maybe vermiculture if you're really, you know, advanced or science, you know,
Doing it all. Yep.
sciencey. And you know, but as you start to expand that out, you know, then comes this question of every collection program faces, you know, issues with contamination. And it means that here's your ideal source material, and here's what's supposed to be hitting the processing, whether it's a compost pile or a landfill or a trash to energy facility, right? They say this is what we're expecting, and then you get
Yeah.
contaminants. That
Then you have
contaminant could
America.
be, right, that contaminant can be plastic where plastic's not supposed to be.
Sure.
It could be a gas grill tank where a gas grill tank's not supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, so it's this, so you learn so much at the, you know, so the lessons are really most easily learned at the smallest level. You say, this is the material that we want.
Yeah.
And
Ideal.
anything that screws that up is a problem.
Yeah.
Now, as we know, because we know what happens in curbside recycling,
Right.
which is everything ends
Right.
up in curbside recycling.
What about my freedom?
Yeah.
No.
So you can't, so this idea that, you know, ideally you want to have, so there's, when you talk about this kind of centralized collection, it has all these other issues.
Sure.
But if you really put the focus on good practices individually, small communities, community garden types, you know, community plot, neighborhoods, things like that, those habits, you can't really run away from those habits. If somebody's throwing plastic lids in with their food scraps, it's going to be, you know, people are going to know, and it's going to get found out because you're in a smaller community. So that's really the ideal. And the farther you get away from that, you know, the more issues you run into, the less desirable the end material is going to be. And you do, and again, that goal of where the end product, where does it go? Who's going to use it? You can process a lot of organic material, but getting that organic material into a form that is free of heavy metals, can be applied, to agriculture is approved for application in agricultural processes. It's very difficult. But, I think when people get the idea that, hey, this is where our food scraps, this is what good food scrap looks like, this is what it means, this is how it's processed, and this is where it ends up.
Yeah.
You see it, that you've built a mental model that you can now it helps you understand a bigger scale. So I think it's really helpful not only to practice that food scrap management at the smallest scale, but if you're not practicing it, to understand it at that scale.
No, that's what a beautiful monologue that is. I took a couple mental notes. The good thing is, people, this is out there for perpetuity. Thank you, man. Because so let me jump in and say a couple things for background for people. But let me start with some of the great stuff you hit on. Composting. As we said in text exchange, I'm so happy to be a composter. For really, I can now say most of my life. I'm 56, been composting just around 30 years. And I'm just if there's any accomplishment I've done on this crazy planet, it's that I've never put any food waste into the food stream since about 1993 or 92. I'm serious. I never. It hurts me to, if someone accidentally throws away like a piece of a carrot or something, I'll fish it out. I'm a fascist about food waste going into the. So I'm very happy. So in 2 states and in 2 homes, compost, and we have a compost pile in the back. I go out there every day and I empty the nice stainless steel kind of filtered for odor. You buy these professional. We have it right next to our sink. We compost everything: coffee grounds, banana peels, seeds, the bits of kale, everything. We were just talking about this because it's garbage day today, and we take our garbage out every 2 weeks. We could actually take it out every 4 or 5 weeks. We just don't generate much garbage. Every 2 weeks, our township, our city collects recycling. So we take that out every 2 weeks. And even that, often we could stretch to 3. So that's one thing I wanted to note, and to salute you for bringing up how important composting is from the scientist side and from the just compassionate human being side. The other thing I want to say is, and I interjected some snarky things about Americans there, and I just want to put that in context for people that, of course, I know there are problems in other countries. Of course, I know China has garbage issues, which they've addressed hugely, actually, in the last decade. And I want to ask Pete about that. They've been doing a lot. I understand that. I always go after Americans, though, because those other countries don't get on a high horse and say they're the greatest and the best and number one and blah, 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 blah. So, you know what I'm saying? So our bar is so high that when we're blowing something like garbage, I'm going to say it's cultural. So that's the aside. The other final part there I wanted to remind you, Pete. Do you remember our buddy Rainier? Of course, Perencoan, is that his last name? Perencoan. Yeah. Have you been in touch with him?
No. In fact, I'd kind of been in touch, and then I tried to get in touch with him, and his info changed. So
okay, so let's pledge right here that we should try to find him.
Yes,
because the other thing I want people to round out is Pete is a great musician, bass player. He plays guitars, keyboards. He does looping, computer music, a lot of jazz, all kinds of different groups he's been in and out. And we were in a group together called Doot that we played a lot in the Northeast. But we went to Germany and Netherlands, and we played over there. This was years ago, and it was an amazing time. And hopefully we do that again sometime. But one of the things about compost I want to bring up is somewhere in that time, I stayed at Rainier's house in Delft. I think it was in Delft, right? Netherlands, with his wonderful family. And I remember it was great just living in Netherlands for a few days, riding bikes. And I remember you'd go out to, and I became part of the household. So I'd help and the cooking. Someone there was vegetarian, maybe he was, or one of the kids. So that was also normal. Again, it's not a big deal in any of these other countries. They just go, okay. But I would go out to the garbage to take something, and they had, I think, 5 garbage bins. They had clear glass, brown glass, green glass, landfill, and compost.
Right. Right.
Compost, folks. This is pushing 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And to Pete's point, we got to get on the case here, man. It's not hard. Just figure it out. Start recycling your food waste. And you're getting, which we get, and we got our garden started at right now, we get incredible black living soil with worms in it. It feels like it's alive. You pick it up in your fingers, you're like, oh my God, this is just moist, beautiful soil. And last year it was kale scraps and stuff.
Yeah.
So I just want to interject that part.
No, it's exactly the case. It's exactly, I mean, it's the let's just say that there are success stories everywhere. I would say generically in the United States, we have a failed system. It was built for a different approach to the waste stream at a different time. The collection systems are geared, there's this, the biggest, the paradigm, I hate that word when it's thrown off, but
it's been misused, but
misused a lot. But just to say that when you're
It's
talking about waste, you're literally talking about the generation, the transportation, and the processing. It's going to be generated somewhere. It's got to get transported, because most people are not processing their garbage at home, and it's mostly illegal. And so it goes to a central location. And that central location really dictates how the upstream, right, from the generator. So if you only have monolithic disposal facilities, then you tend to collect waste in a monolithic manner. So it's everybody in the pool, right? You have, in the most of the United States operates in a 2-bin, if they have recyclables collection, because it isn't recycling, it's collection.
yes,
If you're
that's true.
collecting recyclables, usually it's to 2 bins,
Right.
What's called depending, there's all those colors, but let's just say there's the trash bin and the bin for you put your recyclables in.
Mm-hmm.
That's about where most, and if you have access to it, which is an if, most people have one opportunity to separate some material out, like immediately available. If you have a local transfer station, they might have collection for all sorts of things. You have to put it in your car and drive it there, which is not a bad deal. The town I live in has actually got a great transfer station, and it is a bag system. So we pay for the bag, you bring the bag for your trash, and then you can bring your recyclables to, they're set up to take everything from tires to clothing. So
Great.
yeah, it's a good way. You don't want to be paying, and then a lot of it's financial. You don't want to be paying by the ton to truck things that could be recycled or recovered to a landfill or to get burned. So, it's available, right? But the idea really is that what we're still putting in the trash is mostly, is a mix that has a lot of food in it.
Yeah. That's alarming, man. 38%. And I'm
it's
sorry, just for folks to reiterate, was that is that a national number, or was that kind of Connecticut or other states? What?
I don't have, and I do, that's my job. I deal with the data, but I'm definitely not representing the agency, and I'm definitely not.
Sure.
It's definitely not a discussion about Connecticut programs.
Hard numbers. Yeah. Okay. Got you. But
I'm just saying is that if you said ballpark number,
yeah,
for what percentage of the trash leaving the curb is food waste, it's
sure
in that mid 30s or maybe.
Okay. that frames it wonderfully. And again, folks, right? Pete is not speaking officially. Pete's here as my dear colleague, brother, friend,
Yeah.
musician, traveler, and foodie.
Yeah.
So there's no
But
official.
when you think about what you're, so when you're, I guess to anybody watching, the real question is that it takes a bit of legwork, because you want, if again, this goes back to what I was saying about, if you have your own garden and you're collecting your own food scraps, you have complete control from cradle to grave. You buy the produce, you end up with some rinds, or you end up with some cores, or you end up with some, off spec vegetable products.
Yeah.
And, whatever else, and eggshells and all the, coffee grounds and all this other organic material that you might end up with. And, then you set up a composting. Now, I grew up where my grandmother, I had one grandmother who was a scientific organic gardener. Like before there was a master gardener cert, she was there.
Right. Okay.
The other one was a farmer. Like, she just had a compost pile because that's what you did with your food scraps. And all
what else would you do? Right.
Right. That's what else would you do? But the processes were very, very similar.
Yeah.
But you own control over that. So you say, here's my food scrap, here's where it goes. Transportation means walking it over to the garden.
I love it. I love it. And as you know, because we've had many talks and we've shared many meals. I've had wonderful meals in your house,
Right.
So we've talked about food for years. So this is really cool to come to this forum. But as you know, like you, I'm a big fan of, well, what did our grandparents do? What did and like you said, they didn't call it organic. They didn't call it, what's the other word? I forget the other.
There was no sustainability then. It was just what you did.
Yeah. You just said there's another category though. What do you call that? The hyper organic stuff where they do it by the phases of the moon even.
Oh yeah. Well, that's
what's
organic.
That called?
Yes, right. That's what my grandmother did. It was
almanac,
and it was
they all did it. I'm just forgetting right now that the word from the 80s or 90s that it'll come back to me. But my point being is, you and I have talked about how, just like with music, just like with all kinds of cultural things, hey, let's listen maybe to what people did before. We don't have to. I mean, they did slavery before, so we're not doing that. But let's really pick and choose and say, hey, this one made sense, which would be not putting all this stuff in the waste stream, not having all these processed foods. So I love it. Let me jump to see if there's some questions. And yes, there is indeed. There's one or two people watching on YouTube. I just said hi, and then quite a dozen or so people on Facebook, and about 60 comments. So I'm going to look real quick. See if you have your questions for Pete Brunelli, put them here. Sabine studied chemistry in German, and Sabine, she's from Zappanale, of course, right?
Yeah.
You remember her? So she's always on a Monday. And she wrote something in German. Okay, Lohnprodukt des Wassers und Leifheit von reinstem Wasser. I don't know. I need to get my
Here's translate when you need it.
I know. Frank Molina points out H3 is tritium, and okay, look at this. The chemistry nerds are coming out.
Nice.
This is the shit. The molar mass and the acidity minus 1.74 pH. Oh, all this fun stuff. Wonderful. I'm going to go back and look at that. Conductivity of water. Also, we are representing the beautiful diaspora of Italy strong today, because we got Frank Bellina, Pete Brunelli, Gina Renzi.
Yeah.
So shout out.
Keep those vowels coming, folks.
Shout out to our people. Let's see. Lots of love to Gina Renzi. Do you know the Rotunda in Philly, Pete? Do you know? Yeah, because Frank Bellina is the longtime front of house guy there, and Gina runs it. And when this is all, that's a place you should play. I mean, that's a great, the Rotunda in Philadelphia. Wonderful place. Played there with Don Preston and a bunch of other projects. So, okay, so there's some cool comments there. I'll keep seeing if there's any questions. What I wanted to show, let's jump back though. You were talking about pasta.
Well, hang on. I just want to do
please.
It'll just take this. Now,
Yeah.
So just on that is, if you do have control over your food scrap, fantastic, but
Yeah,
most people won't.
right.
So when you're looking at what you might do with it, learn about it and try to get a feel for where that material is actually going. That's really gonna drive what you collect and how you get it to the end point.
That's true.
Okay, a lot places there are definitely, like, at our headquarters in Hartford, we ran what's called an earth tub composter, which is the size of a compact car. It's a tub with an auger and you turn the lid, and we filled this thing half full of wood shavings at the beginning of the cycle, and then just all the food scrap from our building went into this. So we did on-site composting for over 20 years.
Wow.
We had some construction that disrupted our siting. We had to get rid of it, but we went to a local business that does curbside food scrap collection. So they now take our material. So if you're looking for a food scrap collection program, learn some stuff about it, and they'll tell you what they want and what they don't want, and try to stick to their guidance and try to learn something. Ask them specifically, hey, not to, to educate yourself. Find out where this material goes and what uses it gets put to. And
No,
if you
I'm
have a choice, you might like one above the other.
I'm glad you brought that up, because you're right. People might be in an apartment in the city. There might be all kinds of things that make it problematic. Having said that, almost everywhere there's composting services, and which Pete's kind of alluding to there. But you have there's one here in Asheville, and I know there was one in remember someone talking about it in Jersey, and we would chuckle and say, well, we just do it ourselves. But folks, Google it, look in your local municipality. Here's one that I just pulled up.
Yeah.
And what they do is they give you a bucket like that one there. Yeah. You put your food waste and leave it on the front step or the porch or whatever in front of your front door, whatever you may have. They come get it, whatever, every Tuesday between 10 and 2, whatever it might be. And you have a way to do that. The other cool thing, the one in our town, they will bring you back the soil.
Right.
So you have options, folks, if you don't have ways to do it. And as Pete's saying, they will tell you what they're collecting. And to his point, looks like we planned this, but we didn't. But exactly what Pete just wisely pointed out, this company will take actually meat, dairy, paper towels, and pizza boxes. Those are all things you don't usually compost, but they've obviously figured out a way that, hey, these are organic materials. If we treat them in a different way and segregate them. Here's some great statistics that, again, we didn't plan this, but the really great info Pete is sharing with us. There you go. That supports it right there.
Yeah.
Diverting. I wrote that down. Pete said something. Many amazing.
Yeah, right.
So many amazing things.
Disposal.
Diversion from disposal. But one of the things Pete said that I want to remember that I wrote down is, this idea of waste. You generate, you transport, and you process. That's wow. I love little things like that make me think about it, because that's it, folks. And you think about that now every time. I do already, but I'm always reminding myself every time I'm going to buy something, every time I'm in Staples or Trader Joe or wherever it might be, I'm continually thinking about the garbage. I am, and I never take a shopping bag. That's easy. That's like the childish. If you're still getting fucking paper bags and plastic bags, what planet are you on? It's one you hate. That's the planet you're on. But at the very least, carry bags. I carry boxes. I recycle. But then while I'm shopping, I'm always like, you know what? The one in glass is $1 more, or I make choices based on, or if I can buy it bulk, I will. I'll buy some almonds, or I'll buy some. But you're reminding me to go even more hardcore and really just never buy things like grains and nuts and certainly vegetables, which we buy all the time. I never take the plastic thing in the store. Maybe 2 or 3 times a month, to be honest, if I forget. But
packaging is the 800-pound gorilla, because what you're hearing about now, if we get outside of food waste,
please,
the recycling, if you think about a recycling bin is full of packaging.
Mm-hmm,
There's almost nothing in a recycling bin that isn't packaging.
Yes.
There's a industry term called bottles, cans, and paper, but it's also bottles, cans, jugs, right? Boxes, right? Cardboard is a form of paper, but corrugated cardboard is kind of its own little world.
Mm-hmm.
And you're really talking at packaging. Well, that's what when you're hearing it now. I'm sure if anybody's paying attention to the United States discussions, you'll hear this topic called extended producer responsibility. And this sells itself because nobody, and I mean nobody in there, nobody who's thinking about it. If what it means is that
You made it.
these companies are taking their products, putting them in packages, filling stores with those packages,
Mm-hmm.
and then walking away from what happens with the packaging.
Yep.
That's you and I and every person who's got any fiscal attachment to the economy is paying for the management of those products, and the companies who generate them are.
Yeah.
So I think when people understand that, why am I bearing, the question is, why are we bearing these costs alone?
Yeah.
Why communities, states, towns, why are the
Because
country,
you're
why are we bearing the cost of managing these products alone, where the people that are inserting these products into the community are not responsible? And it comes down to people, there's so much greenwashing in this, and it's the entire industry. There's no less recyclable package in the world to me than the box that iPhone comes in.
Right, because it's got
it's like exhibit
foam, and
it's the John Dillinger of bad packaging, man. That is paper wrapped around cardboard, wrapped around plastic. It's inseparable. They just make this machine,
right?
And if you ever try to pull an iPhone box apart, you'll end up a bloody mess.
With a bunch of stuff,
it's atrocious. So not only are they unloading conventional cardboard boxes, plastic jugs, those your pickle containers, which we call Italian Tupperware.
Right. Yes. Use them.
Those, it's like ricotta containers.
Yeah. Oh, it's Guyanese Tupperware too. Yeah.
So, those containers, now you don't just get regular containers, you get Franken containers.
Yes.
Laminated materials
that's
can
what
never
sucks.
be productively separated. Right.
Yeah.
So it's garbage.
Yeah.
It isn't even it's not recyclable packaging. It's trash.
It's trash.
Is disguised as a recyclable product.
Another just beautiful monologue of wow, just so much great info here today, folks. A couple things just rolling backwards. Yes, and I go through this anxiety when I get a package, and I've owned maybe 3 iPhones over the course of the iPhone, because I keep them till they die, and actually I keep them beyond that. I keep them because, first off, they're worth $30 after you've kept them that long. Proof in the pudding, folks. Here is an iPhone 6S. What are we on? 12 or something? It still works. I'll keep using it. But then what I do, I keep the box, because, like he said, the box is. So I keep them, and I put screws and tools and parts in them down here in the basement. I always need to separate little things, little parts, and so they're useful for that.
That's a 4.
Wow.
That still works.
I've been around you with that phone.
I
haven't seen you in years, but
that's actually one of Sandy's that I still use. But
I love it.
I guess the point is that on one hand, they're durable. You're doing,
well, that's
right. So it's here's the thing. It's not a disposable product.
That's what I was going to say.
And durable product. Now there's all sorts of downstream, right? Anytime we talk about an industrial product, there's usually a
Oh,
not great story.
all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
But I mean, we're talking about here's the product and then here's the packaging it comes
exactly.
in.
Exactly.
And when you're, so I think that's that kind of awareness of, and it takes 5 minutes. There's so many great pieces. I've seen so much great reporting on how broken the recycling system
Yep.
in this country is that it
It's
takes,
scary.
I've seen 2 or 3 in the past 3 days. Once
Yeah.
on YouTube, you watch one and then they just keep
Of
popping.
course. Of course.
So, there's a few very good ones out there. One of them was on like 60 Minutes, or one of them was on
Yeah.
CNN. There's a whole round. I mean, people will there's no shortage of people that will tell you that,
Yeah.
what we're talking. That's why I said at the beginning, when you see a recycling bin, it's not a recycling bin, it's a
Collection. I love that, man. I think thank you, because I love that. One of the things I love too of our town of Asheville, which is a mixed bag on a lot of these things as we turn into a fucking brewery tourism town. Having said that, I love that our bins downtown, first of all, there's 2, which I applaud. I mean, you got to take what you can.
Right.
And there's the blue and the gray or whatever, but it says, one of them says recycling, so it should say collection.
Yeah, well,
but yeah, what are you going to do? But the other one, to their credit, and I can imagine the council debating this, the other one says landfill.
Okay.
So I love that, because no one likes to think about it. And you walk around Asheville, you see hundreds of these, and I love that it puts in your brain, yeah, you're fucking sending this to why did you buy the whatever crap you're carrying around? Let me jump back to first off, see if a couple questions, but I a couple things are on my to-do list, and I want to say, first of all, shout out today, 50 years, and I'm here in part, well, because of my parents being 2 amazing, brilliant people who insisted that I read instead of, do a lot of other stupid things, and kept me inquisitive and supported my efforts to get into environmentalism and everything. So I always thank them. But I also thank the amazing culture of public radio, because I grew up
ATC, right?
All things considered today. That's right. So of course Pete Brunelli knows what I'm talking about and improvises with me.
I mean, I'm from, I'm the beacon of public radio in Connecticut is WNPR.
There you go. Wow.
We don't have
holy shit.
We seem to get clobbered over the head with
it. They cut right to the quick.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say that.
I'm messing around there.
I wanted to say that, and to say that that's a big part of what's inspired me to do this. I've always loved listening to talk radio, listening to. I grew up near New York, so it was WNYC. Sure. I've given them thousands over the 30 years, $10 or $20, $30 at a time. But I love it, and it's changed my life, and I want to pause and just give thanks to All Things Considered and to Morning Edition and to all the people in all these stations. And I listen wherever I go. And again, the beauty of technology is that now you can do it with an app. So when I'm in London or Japan or something and I want to catch some NPR, I've got my little app that you just go and you you find your NPR station. So learned a lot of these kinds of things on NPR. So that's the one thing I wanted to make sure we brought up. To your point, though, the yin yang of the Apple thing, again, I save the boxes because there's only a couple of them, and they end up holding parts and pieces in my guitar area. Because you're right, I look at it and I go, oh, fucking Apple. I can't. So you put the inside into the cover and it fits and it becomes. And also, to your point, these are really good tools, and people can have. There's a lot of Apple hate, and we're not here to talk about Apple versus non-Apple, but I still have my Apple. You have a 4S, and I know people with some of those other phones, and they do replace them.
My daily phone is not a 4S.
And then other phones last too, but a lot of them.
I have an iPad Touch around here somewhere, so these things don't die.
They don't.
You literally crush one.
They don't.
I've never heard of like one just like, very rarely do you hear of one just giving it up. And you and I both, I mean, we both go back to, first of all, we're the same age. Second of all, we both go back to the beginnings of computer technology
Yeah,
as a commodity.
sure.
You know,
It's
I've seen so much garbage computing hardware in my life. I forced most of it out of my memory. They that is a product that if it was junk, we would know. And
absolutely, absolutely. And no, that's a great point. And I have a G4 laptop that still works. All this stuff. But
yeah,
what I do, and I think you've done this too, since these phones become monetarily useless because I keep them so long, I still have my iPhone 3, the smaller one. But you know what does die on them? And it's the part of the technology that's really improving. It's the battery.
of course,
So I charge them, but what I keep them around for, I use them as music tools.
sure.
So a little phone that's 12 years old is 1,000 times the computing power of an Atari in 1983 or something.
Right.
So I have drum machines and synthesizers. So I'm with you. We should do like an iPhone piece at some point.
I mean, for the core of my live synth setup has been Animoog since it came out.
The bomb. The bomb.
It's the only touch synth I have any, like I've had, and I'm kind of like, I either dig it or I don't. I
Right.
had gear that I was like, I'm sure this is going to be great, and it wasn't. That app is just
Oh, I can't say enough about it.
it just does everything. It works the way I want it to work. I use that all the time.
Yeah.
These devices, if
Yeah.
you're still interested in having a music player, they're a good music player.
That's right.
Another
That's right.
interesting thing about this is, and this is a first worldism, which is that there are still plenty of markets where an iPhone 4 is the perfect phone, and
Yes.
they drop new batteries into them, and those
Yep.
phones go on to have like
Long life.
life.
No, it's true. And no, you raised a great point. I'm glad you brought up the first world a delineation there, because I've read some articles. I'm sure you have. What's interesting in parts of Ghana, Zimbabwe, Senegal, Mali, Nigeria, some poor areas, sometimes where people really are poor, they don't have shoes, they have a phone, they have a smartphone. And what's interesting is they are dirt cheap, and these networks can be put up quickly in these countries, but also it's opened up an economy because folks can get paid.
Yes.
They can, and the article I read, there's women in these remote villages and their phones ping, and there's jobs in the city, and it might be, okay, there's 3 days of work at such and such. Then they get on the bus, they go, and they can. So the phone technology has this other side of democratizing. So that's what's interesting. One other thing on my list I wanted to give here is, we were talking about pasta and Italian food, and my dear other half, Robin, just today made an incredible dish. And again, vegan cheese is somewhere in the discussion today. And but I want to show this incredible dish that she made. Let's see here. Let me try to see if I can show that. Where is it? Okay, there we go. Sometimes when you go to share, there's like too many things. Okay, great. Well, here is something fun for the masses. Is the music coming through? So we have, what a delicious dinner this is going to be. So she makes these amazing things that are, I don't even know the name of it, but it's quite Italian, but it's kind of Greek also. It's kind of cherry tomatoes and asparagus and herbs and all kinds of wonderful spices and stuff. And you can't see the pasta. Well, she didn't put the pasta on it yet, but she took this nice pasta and added to this. And we usually, it's such an explosion of grain-free pasta, which I want to ask you about next. Some of it's really great. I mean, back in the day, it wasn't that good. It would fall apart, and you'd have, but it's really a renaissance, as is these vegan cheeses. So this is this Violife feta, which is just amazing. I mean, I'm amazed, because back in 1989, 1993, vegan cheese wasn't that great. I mean, it was okay at the best, and you kind of said, but we're in this renaissance. So I just wanted to make sure Robin's handiwork got on the screen here. Oh, look at that, right?
Yeah.
There we go, full screen. And it's, folks, this is as rich and fatty and delicious and savory as it looks.
Yeah.
Cherry tomatoes, organic, and garlic. And so we love savory food because a lot of people go, well, you're vegan. Is it celery sticks and hummus? You know, and all the way from an Italian nonna to someone from Jamaica or Greece or Japan. There are so many wonderful foods. So I just wanted to share that.
Yeah.
Let's go to that question real quick, Pete. We got so many topics, but have you tried any of these really the newer vegan cheeses, like these
All right.
cashew-based
So
things?
I'll give you the plug.
Tell me about that. Yeah.
I'll drop the plug that in Connecticut, we have blessed with one of the best vegan power couples / restaurants, I believe, in the nation, which is G-Zen. It's a Mark Shadle and Amy Beach.
I've heard of them. Yes.
I always say Amy, but it's a me Beach. They're wonderful. And they, Mark was the chef and partner at one of the OG vegetarian joints in Middletown, Connecticut, called It's Only Natural.
Right.
And I recognized him, though I didn't know him. And one day in Hartford years ago, this black truck rolls up on the street and it says G Monkey. And it was him and his wife, and his food crushes. If you could get his food everywhere, you'd have vegans and vegetarians.
Sure. So pause there. Well, I'll pause there because two things. I want to get the correct name so I can put a link. But what's the name? Say again?
G-Zen.com.
Yeah, I know of them. Just in my searches, I remember looking at this and reading about these chefs. So I'll put that link up. That's the first thing I wanted to say. The second thing I want to say, it's maybe the first pushback I'll say, is we do have vegans and vegetarians everywhere.
Oh, yeah. No.
I know what you're saying, though. I know, but I mean, it makes it sound like, if only,
No.
But credit to your grandparents and to the grandparents around the world. There's such amazing dishes that people. So it's on the people. The dishes are there.
Yes.
Yeah. So just just a gentle pushback. If someone ate your grandmother's broccli rabe, oh my God, right?
Yeah.
I've never had it, but I know because you cook it. So, but to your point, that I know what you're saying. You're saying that's how good this place is. I'm just saying that for the audience.
I was more referring to skeptics, but I take your
yes, I know.
And I also would say that when you're talking about, and you talk about this often, which is progression, like we were just talking about, progression in vegan cheese, the progression in non-grain, in alternative grain pastas and other products. Yeah. This is, this progression is making it through the chef ranks.
Yes.
Though they are not just utilizing ingredients, they're producing better ingredients.
And what it's doing is it's exploding, because there always was these incredible chefs. These vegan chefs like Eric Tucker, who was on before, or my friends.
I watched that whole thing. I think I watched part of it a second time.
There you go. But now, to your point, there's tens of thousands of them on planet Earth. It's really, it's gotten to, so where people would have to refer to that. Oh, the people at I'm forgetting the name in Manhattan. There was a famous place, or Millennium in San Francisco. There was a while where there was just a few on the map. But to your point, a lot of non-vegan chefs have turned to this and said, you know what? I'm getting demand from customers. I'd better learn how to do more things with chickpeas, do more things with almond, do more things with vegetables. And that's what's amazing when people like what's the guy's name? Gordon Ramsay.
Yes.
He did a thing the other day, a video, and it's a cauliflower steak that he did, and it's it looks amazing. And he's kind of snarky about vegetarian eating and stuff, but something's happening when someone like that says, you know what, there are really artisan things you can do with fruits and vegetables. So the thing of the pastas, the alternative pastas, and I also want to again nod to our ancestors and grandparents and stuff, because there was already Italian pastas though that didn't have wheat, right? They had 4 or 5 different types of
Yeah,
grains, and
sure.
you had almond flour that was used in Italy, right? Tell me
Farro.
about that a little bit.
Yeah, sure. There are these traditions which go into whether or not you had wheat. First of all, it was not a choice, it was done out of necessity. You might be in an area where you didn't have real conditions to grow conventional wheat, or it just the tech hadn't made it there. You might be growing a grain like farro.
Right.
You might be growing a coarse like wheat predecessor, right? These what are called heirloom grains, right?
Right.
They weren't heirloom. If you lived in an area where your primary access to grain was corn, or it was rice, or it
Mm-hmm.
was, and it just goes on. And again, like when we were talking about foraging, there were these products so that were there were you were seeing not only greens, but you were finding other grains, right? You were finding things that were along the lines of like amaranth or
Mm-hmm.
arrowroot, right?
Mm-hmm.
You were finding these other plants. And we've become so monocultured that, aside from the fact that the food supplies obviously bodged, right? I mean, I you know the I you can't, gluten sensitivity is a thing, and you can't tell me that it's not the same,
Of
that it's
course.
the same wheat, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, if you had gotten in a time machine, I think, my opinion as a biologist is, if you put somebody in a time machine, ran them back to, the 40s or the 50s, and gave them wheat, they'd be like, no problem. So
Well,
there's
to that point, and
something
you,
definitely different about the food.
yeah, and to that point, and I'm sure you've read articles about the unique how we grow wheat in the USA. I think it's glyphosate. Is that the
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
But I know I'm one of those people. I don't eat much wheat at all, and I've never been diagnosed as wheat intolerant, but I certainly am, and I know when I've had too much of it, my nose runs. I feel, I feel it. It's unquestionable,
Yeah.
and I've gone grain free for long periods of time, and then when I go back, wow, you feel a difference. But I also know, and you know this too, you eat wheat in Italy, and it's the time machine you just mentioned.
Yeah.
It just, you feel like you ate air. Like that whole weighed down, like, oh man, I
Yeah.
had a big thing of spaghetti. You don't feel that in Italy. Am I lying?
No, no, no. We have this has a lot to do with cultivars and cultivation practices. That is
Mm,
not to say wheat is like one of, 1,000.
mm,
It's the fact that most of our wheat is monocultured, and
right,
and running these heavy monocultures requires intervention, and people's systems are not
right,
responding well. It's
right.
no, again, scientific. I'm just saying my my perspective, right?
Hmm.
I look at it and I say, this seems a little unusual. I
Yeah.
I I would, I think that that you co you know it's not necessarily causation, but when you see a rapid evolution in these interventions in the farming process, and this rapid escalation in these food tolerance issues, things that in a normal state you would not have been, um, necessarily having these reactions to, what were common plants, right? They're not poisonous. They're not, you know, they're not typically agonists, right? So that's a real that's a whole other world. But just to say that, I think that the I think that if we, just to even dial back a little bit to the food chain and waste, which is, it's like Michael Pollan, right? It's like mostly plants, right? try to get them as close to where you live as you can. You know, that there's, you know, we're if we're really looking eventually at, you know, it's very difficult, right? I'm talking about Italians who lived in the shadow of Mount Vesuvius, and they moved to southern New England, which has a growing season that if you sneeze, you'll miss it, right? It's for it's you know, the growing season in southern New England is about 9 weeks
It's a
long.
tough one. It's a
Yeah, it's
tough
a
one.
tough one when you came from a 12-month a year, you know, growing season to, you know, to the opposite, right? So, you know, this is, you know, it's different, you know, having an all local plant diet in a you know, northern clime can be a challenge. But
Yeah.
that's why, as you're saying,
It,
pickling,
it
preserving,
raises some interesting questions. You know, jumping back and
all that stuff, and it reduces waste.
so many things you're talking about are things you and I have talked about for years, and this is where it gets difficult for people. But and thank you for bringing up Michael Pollan, big fan. We've talked about him here on the show a bunch, and what a great simple message he has. Eat mostly plants, and when you eat animal proteins and animal foods, get the best quality. Be a qualitarian. Get that grass-fed lamb if you're going to, you know, get those farm-raised eggs, or have, if you find a neighbor that trades eggs for your broccoli.
Something local that didn't have to
Do all
get
those
trucked
things.
500, 2,000, 3,000 miles.
Say again? Yeah.
Get
Yes.
something local that didn't have to get flown over from New
That's
Zealand.
it. That's it. And even if you say to yourself, oh, I can cut it in half, then you're doing something. That's the other part too that I'm a big fan of, is people despair and they think, well, there's nothing I could do. But you can. If you just looked at your diet and said, you know what, I can just get these 4 items locally at a farm market, or because I know that I live near the factory that makes them, or the people that grow them.
Right.
Do it. If you can take something like Pete said, if you can, and I'm going to repurpose this because he's talking about, folks, get stuff out of the waste stream. There's too much food. But if you can also take food out of the transport stream and stop buying kale from Arizona and California and buy it locally, and stop buying eggs that come from Pennsylvania or somewhere, that is something. So don't give up if you feel like, you know, where you live, you can't do all these things we're talking about.
Yeah, and that year-round abundance issue is unique to to an entire industry and a mechanism
Right.
that finds a way to deliver you, you know,
Yeah.
asparagus in January.
And a generation, yeah. And it comes down to, this is the tough part I was going to say. It comes down to, it gets people feel like it's a little scoldy, and so be it. But the message, folks, is we got to consume less.
Yeah.
You got to buy less bullshit and tchotchkes and garbage. You do, because you're buying packaging and it's bullshit.
Right.
And you also, and this is a tough one, and someone's going to get angry, but you really, really should consider that anything more than 2 children is incredibly I got to pick the words carefully, but you really need to think about it in the 21st century. I think so, because you're sharing my space. We're consuming, and I get it. I don't have children. Pete doesn't have children, but I think we both get that 2 children will replace the 2 dead parents. So at least you got your mathematical curve just at nightmare level,
right,
not shooting through the sky. And so in a culture that celebrates the Duggars and all these people with 14 children, and people like Alec Baldwin with his, probably at this point, oatmeal consistency sperm, still having children, I get angry. And I know someone's going to be mad, and that's okay. I'm here to rile you up also.
Awesome.
But I think it's something to think about. Consumption. And that's what's been interesting. I've been team COVID on some of this, because it has shut down the companies that are just selling you another candle wrapped in another plastic container, wrapped in another bit of, talk to me a little bit about that, about consumption and what we can do.
Well, you know, the 3 R's, right? Reduce, reuse, then recycle, right? So recycling isn't recycling is the worst of those three, right? So you want to be definitely you definitely want to be at least learning to consider, I'm buying X, what is involved in that. Now people are generally going to get what they want, but you want to be thinking, am I going to get it by this route? Then do I need it right now? Do I need it, is there a way I can get this with less of a footprint, or can I, it's all these other things. Now this is where the societal problem or the societal clash is. Are you telling me I want X now, I can't have X now? Well, I guess yes, because I'm not saying you can't, but I'm saying there are implications. Individuals will do what individuals want to do. It's just a matter of, if you've looped those considerations into your decision process, then you'll make, hopefully, better decisions.
Better choices. I
So
love it.
to understand that if you're, and it's the collective action, one person deciding not to buy pears from Argentina above the, when you're in the 41st parallel,
Right.
like, guess what, like that's that a lot of the getting the pear back to your house and eating it is like this, and everything that went into generating that pear, flying it, right, or trucking or shipping it from an equal distance south of the equator, to you, a trip
Yeah.
that any of us would probably love to take.
Sure. Sure.
Right?
Now,
Anyone else would love to go, make that trip, but you're not, it's like, there's a pile of fruit in every supermarket in your immediate range, and they all took that.
yeah. Now, what about the argument? Because I, of course, as you know, my former and kind of sort of profession, retail, natural foods,
Yeah.
almost 20 years. And so these issues would come up because I was a produce manager actually at two different stores. And so this would come up, man. Kiwis, avocados. And then, or in the middle of the winter, your organic produce supplier would have, you name it, some blueberries or something. And you had to make those choices. So I've made good and bad choices through the years. Tell me, but then someone presented the following argument. Tell me what you think about this. I've had people argue, well, look at it this way. That plane is coming from Peru anyway.
Right. Yeah.
We're not changing that unless it's COVID level shutdown of our society. So that plane is coming from Madagascar to here to from Peru, from Chile. And this person had argued, shouldn't we?
The machine is in operation.
Yeah, yeah. And this person argued, shouldn't we make sure that every square inch of safe cargo is filled up? In other words, let's not fly empty planes back and forth. Let's at least, and then the argument is a good argument. And also, you're providing for all these Chilean farmers this hungry organic market in the first world. And then you get into the fair trade thing, and sometimes we can take it all the way back to the field. Some beautiful things have happened. Schools have been built, health centers, because someone's growing, some fairly special nut or some kind of cacao or some sort of, what's your thoughts on that answer that people give to consume things from Ghana or from Peru?
Okay, so there are always going to be upsides, right? So the question, I think that it's easy to have those upsides to discuss those upsides from a distance. If you were looking at land conversion, erosion, washing, like what happens when you need to suddenly turn 5,000 acres into fruit tree land, right? What was the local cost of that? Did it, so we don't really know. I would just say that in general, there are always pluses and minuses. the when we talk about when we're talking about the food chain, and you start to look at the climate issues, you start to
Mm,
look at the transportation, the number one, right? Energy production and transportation. This is interesting, right? So when we look at a gallon, when we look at a car and we look at miles per gallon, we completely exclude what it took to pump that oil out of the ground, turn it into gasoline, and get it to you. That's not part of the vehicle efficiency,
mm.
right? When we're looking at these products that are being shipped all over the globe, they don't have like a bullseye on them that says that your bottle of Fiji water,
Oh,
right?
worst.
Right. I'm just saying, like, you bought a bottle of water that got flowed, again, a trip any of us would love to take.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
And
But
just
it's
as an
like,
aside,
you're just hauling that stuff has an enormous footprint. So
yes, yes.
you have to do a lot of good. You have to build a lot of schools and uplift a lot of souls to be in the point where you say, yeah, I just this thing got shipped 15,000 kilometers
Absolutely.
across the
Absolutely.
surface of the earth to make it to my mini mart.
Sure. And great. That's a great product to bring up. And to be clear, I don't know where I am on. I'm asking you a question
No,
genuinely. I don't have a.
no,
But
it's a good conversation.
and yeah, and to draw a line there though, because I've read about the horrors of Fiji water. People should to be clear, that those big tankers that leave Fiji with the water, they're not carrying anything else. So you know what I mean? There's a little excuse of the Chilean plane because
No,
that's
right, but
happening
I'm just
anyway.
saying, in
The,
general,
the coconut milk or the blueberries or something is hitching a ride. But you raise a great point on the Fiji water and many products like it.
yes.
We should really be thinking and saying, why am I drinking Fiji water? Um, I go through a dilemma because my boss Steve Howe likes Fiji water. He likes this. It's a certain the bottle texture and the kind of.
Yeah, yeah.
So we get it, and it's in my life when I'm touring, but you raise a great point. I think marbled into your point though, and you've said it a few times. Just think about it a little bit more, folks. Right before you grab something off the shelf, think about the whole path. I want to go to a couple links here and make sure people are aware of this. Pete, did you see? And this is remarkable because we're talking about fucking Brazil here. That's what's amazing about this kind of breakthrough that we're going. Did you see the New York Times did an article on what's exploding in Brazil? I never thought I'd see that
Right,
word.
right.
Did you read this?
No, that's really
Uh,
cool.
I'll send it to you. And again, New York Times. So what's happening is environmentalists, just to your point of like changing things to fruit trees, they're actually doing it the right way. They're saying instead of importing impossible burgers and things from America, let's make things here in Brazil.
Yes.
To your point, and drive it around with our sugar cane gasoline, right?
Yeah.
And let's stop tearing down our rainforest, which is right here. Everyone in the world keeps talking about rainforest. We got it right here. And so there's this revolution in Brazil. It blows my mind because one of the most carnivorous kind of, cuisines. But it's changing. There's this thing. It's an amazing article. There's these beef producers and animal slaughter companies that are switching over and making stuff from coconut meat and wheat gluten. And I can't believe I'm reading this.
Right.
But it really shows again that there are some solutions that answer some of the questions you're bringing up, which is not to ship it halfway around the world and not to, and of course, there's all kinds of things to work out. So I'll put the article in the link.
Cool.
But talk to me a little bit about how we are seeing this blow up. And you've probably seen me on this show talk about places like China, where there's a 500 location chain that's now doing an egg alternative. Another one's using a chicken alternative. Talk to me a little bit about what we need to do to get that right. Is it the packaging? Is it keeping it local? Like, what's kind of the main thing to keep in mind with that kind of revolution?
Well, I think that I think that, you know, the challenge with any type of food is it delicious? So let's hope, right? Fingers crossed. Something like an Impossible Burger, like, as you know, apparently, and I have not experienced one. I'm just saying, I've got I'm still a little old school there in terms of, I would make these jokes about, you know, my goals were, and I understand this isn't apt. It's, you know me, like, it's mostly jokes,
Yeah, yeah.
you know, but it's like, not, you know, my goals of life were to possibly make it through without eating laboratory grown meat. Um,
Right, which is another huge thing right
right.
now.
You know, those sort of things where, um, you know, there's, I think that if you're creating a product, right, that you aren't, that isn't like, for some reason extraordinarily energy intensive, and and it's actually solving a problem and giving, you know, the history of food is strewn with better alternatives that were less damaging to the land, and that gave you better yields, and that gave you more nutrition, and
That's
that
it.
did it, you know, and the impact, the impact on land. I'll check the Brazil article out, but I can almost telegraph that it's about the enormous destruction that animal farming does to the land.
Yes, that's in the article, and
I mean,
they're finally, yeah.
these people aren't totally divorced from it. They're looking at these resources, getting, like I said, when you're talking about production farming, you know, you know, here in New England, it's easy to just think of rolling hills and there's a little farm with a red barn. No, it's like, you know, pig production, man.
7.5 billion people, right?
Right. I
No,
mean,
but you're
it's a complete free. I mean, it's a complete, on a global scale, a complete freak show in terms of the amount of resources that need to be funneled in, the amount of
right,
energy it takes while you're there, the amount of energy it takes in transport,
right.
refrigeration, and all this stuff. And
Sure.
it's this enormous machine. And, you know, because it needs to deliver this item in like this condition or
To
else.
the first world.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that
And
and you said that earlier, and I want to really highlight that for people. And you said it talking about history of your ancestry, where folks, a lot of this is, and again, don't get mad, but the American palate has done this. You know, we've created, we're proud that we've invented the fast food and all that. We're proud that we've invented that giant, successful, big plate of meat and the steak bigger than your head. And these things have propagated around the world. And again, they eat meat everywhere on the planet. I'm not saying otherwise. But
right.
to Pete's point, today you can go to rural Italy, to Chile, to everywhere, to Jamaica, and it's only eaten once every other day or once a day, or they eat the eggs instead of killing chicken. This is an important thing. So I think that's the other thing too, is that a lot of places on earth are ready for a little more plant-based local, you know, economies. And I jokingly said before, you know, Brazil, very carnivorous. And it is, from kind of, again, that American perspective. You go to a Brazilian steakhouse in New York or something, and you're swimming in meat. But I have to say, the 3 or 4 days I spent in Brazil,
Yeah.
no, I didn't even have to think about it
Yes.
to eat
Vegetable
vegetarian.
everywhere.
Exactly, and so that's important. I'm not dissing the Brazilians.
Everybody has a vegetable cuisine.
Absolutely,
I mean,
absolutely.
literally everybody has a great one.
Here,
I'll say this about the here, you know, I love thought experiments, and I love to
yes,
break down things that we take for granted.
likewise.
And go into your regular grocery store, not the screaming high end place. You can do it there too, but right, just go into your regular grocery store and try to, like, just start looking at products and say, where's it from? Where's it from? Where's it from? Where's it from? Where did that
Hmm.
fruit come from? Where did that head of lettuce come from? Where did that come from? You know,
Yeah,
and you start realizing the transportation footprint behind your regular old neighborhood grocery store is enormous.
yep.
Yeah, and if you went to these, we were talking about these more old world, not necessarily not first world, but definitely old world places, they will typically not accept except for some specialty foods, do not accept food that has transported tens and hundreds of thousands of miles.
Absolutely, absolutely,
They
and
just are no interest in something that came from halfway around the globe.
absolutely.
It's a, you know, this is a, this is like the, this is like the curiosity of like the of the European Gilded Age. Now you've got 350 million people who want to have exotic fruits and vegetables 12 months a year.
No, the great.
Like it's like, hey, guess what? You know what's a great blueberry? A blueberry that was grown near you and
Yeah,
came off a bush and you ate it. You know what's a terrible blueberry? Like that December blueberry that got shipped from from South America.
yeah, yeah.
Like if you put them next to each other, which people should do more often, one
Sure.
of them is a blueberry and one of them is not a blueberry.
Yeah. No, no. There's no
And
no
I've eaten
question.
both, and
And
I eat both. Hey, you know,
yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And I get the frozen ones. I love that you brought up the Gilded Age. I love you, bro. This is such a great chat, and you know, you and I have had these chats in person and on the phone, and especially I love that you said the thought experiment part. No one says that. That's one of every day, all day. I'm doing thought experiments
yes,
as you are,
right,
and you and I get on the phone,
yeah,
and this is just like if we were on the phone. You also raise a great point about the Gilded Age because again, you study the Silk Road and the spice trade and all that, and that was the beginning of Europeans saying, "Oh, this pepper, black pepper,
right,
ginger." These things came, and I was doing some music the other day, and I have an oud, and I've been playing some oud lately,
yeah,
and I was talking on my little stream about how instruments came into Europe from Africa and from
oh, yeah,
India and Persia and where what we now call Iraq, Iran, and all that,
yeah,
but also food and spices and fabrics. So it's funny. You're right. There was a time when 1% of your supermarket, as you're saying, but the market at that point, just 1% was the little exotic
yeah,
herbs and spices. And you're right. We now have this complete. It's out of control.
yes,
Um, Now, I want to show another link here to your point of antiquity and also to the point of you said old school, which I love. And one of the things is a lot of stuff we're talking about is old school. This is something I've been studying and I've talked about this on the show a few times. Did you know they were using almond milk in the 12, 13, 1400s?
that's awesome.
Isn't that crazy? I mean, but then again, it's not crazy because, like you said before about Italy antiquity, they ate wheat in season and if it was growing in their region. If not, it was farro or almond flour
Yeah,
or risotto in some parts of Italy, right?
mhm,
They went more with rice,
right,
right?
right.
But
Because the corn, the polenta,
corn, yeah.
the
But I'll send this article too. This is incredible because, and I've put this article up in the past and other ones. But what happened was seasonally, when eggs were scarce, when milk was scarce, because milk depended on the season largely, right? The cows, you know, thrived at certain part of the year. You didn't have this massive dairy industry, so they would use almonds to replace in sausages if they were low on meat. It
mhm,
would be part meat, part almond meal. It would be part egg, or they used fish. They used all kinds of things. It wasn't. I'm not making the argument that they were vegans. No, I'm not saying that. And some people hear that. But I'm saying that when there wasn't enough lamb or beef or pork, they used potato or lentil meal or almond meal, or indeed eggs,
mm,
or something cheaper. But really remarkable. And they made it cheeses and things. So really cool article. Here's a recipe from the 14th century using to make a blancmange using almond milk. Incredible. And it used saffron to simulate the yellow of a yolk. So this stuff I love because there's a pushback by people who don't like natural food that say, oh, this is all fake crap that Whole Foods made up. It's not. Whole Foods has a lot of crap, believe me. But the idea of just being creative and using mushrooms where you would use chicken or using different things. Um, Talk to me a little bit about that, and you have been, but talk to me a little about how much we should maybe look at ancient solutions to things.
It's using what you. It's really using what you have read. Ideally, again, this there's a tie-in, which is there's what's local, there's what's plentiful, right? There's what's in season, what's not in season. And when what you started off right before I hopped on, we were talking about pickles. You're talking about pickles. You're talking about like every you go to these European immigrant households, and what you find is a root cellar. You find the fruits and vegetables that they've been preserving. If they eat meat, right, they're preserving sausages for the upcoming season where there's no. These things are seasonal. They're when you have when the season comes around for that, you eat that. When the season is not, now you're looking at Lenten dishes, which are where you're not eating meat, right? So there's a religious angle there, but there's which is also seasonality, right? Because we know that the religious holidays are tied in many ways to the
The
harvest, the
moon and the
slaughter,
harvest, sure.
right? The planting season, right? All of these things, there's the weather, and it's this growing cycle, and it's all tied together. So there is that feeling that if you are, there's a lot to be said for wherever you live, there's seasonality. There's things that are going to be better at some times of the year than others. Now, if the idea would be that, if you're in Southern California, which has a much more of a year-round abundance, even though it's not everything, if you're in that kind of a climate, it's not maybe such a big deal. You have a lot more there. Like everything else in where I live in the Northeast, you've got a lot of stony ground, and you've got short growing seasons. You need to work a little harder to be ready for the season where you may not have these every vegetable. You might say, you know what, here comes the fall and the winter, my diet is going to change. And your body will adapt to that. And then when you have your in-season produce, it's that much more delicious. Your body's going to really enjoy that, and you're going to give yourself a break again. You can be cyclical. This idea of everything all the time, 12 months a year,
I know.
is a resource, is just a resource monster.
It's
And it's very difficult. And it's the unwinding part is that, what are we in? We're in, right now we're in 70, 80 years, right? I mean, that's the story of post-war America. That's post-World War II America in a nutshell.
lifespan.
The dive and establishment of year-round abundance
Oh yes, you're saying it started. Oh yeah, I love that shit.
So you're not going to spin that, overnight.
Yeah.
But even if you're not doing it 24/7, right?
Yeah.
Let's just say that in general, because absolutes don't work in any form, right? But just to say that in general,
For the most
enjoy
part,
the
yeah.
seasonality of where you live. What's good
Yeah.
in season, and when it's out of season, wait for it to come around again a little more. Maybe not constantly, but we know that these when you see the triggers are, or the big signs are, does it grow near me?
Yeah.
Right? Where does it grow? How did it get here? How did an avocado get to Rhode Island? Not
Dude.
positive, but I know that they didn't grow it here.
Yeah.
Those are two things that I can say with certainty. I can buy an avocado anytime I want, and they don't grow here.
Yeah.
They're not great year round, right? So, I remember going to, I shop at ethnic markets. So I'd go to an Indian market, and I would say, oh, I was here. I remember you having these fantastic mangoes. They're not in season. Come back in 3 months. And you come back in 3 months, and there's this case of like out of this world mangoes.
Yeah.
Of course they were transported, but they aren't getting them. They're getting them in season when they're correct, right?
Sure. Um,
So
j-
it's hard.
just because I have fun with American stuff and language and everything. So, uh, and I agree, and I use that term too. We go to an Asian market and there's ethnic markets. Are all markets that are like a Polish market is an ethnic market, correct?
Yeah.
As is Italian. So as long as it says we're an Italian or Jamaican or
Yeah.
because that's always what's interesting. And I think I love that you said that because we live in this new politically correct America where even the word ethnic scares people. You know, I've had people go, "How could you say that?" And you know, it means culture. Like,
Right.
have you? You've probably encountered that, right? This
Of course.
PC on the word ethnic. So thank you for,
Yeah.
as always,
But it's
being.
real.
It's real.
It's real because I've had uh, I've had years, right? Better than half a lifetime of being able to be in a modest central Connecticut metro area that is a melting pot.
Yeah.
I can eat food from a different culture every day of the week and then a different culture the week after.
Yeah.
We then Hartford has an enormous West Indian community, many South American communities. We were that area has been the landing zone for the European immigrants of every nation. I can go to the Polish National Home that's 15 minutes right down the road from where I work. I can go to Scott's West Indian bakery and have lunch there. I can go to a Vietnamese restaurant that is just off the charts. I can be at an Indian place. I can be at a various regional Chinese restaurants. I can be at a Szechuan place. I can be at a Cantonese place. I can be at a South Indian joint having fantastic South Indian thali or just a dosa or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're just I couldn't not use the term because that's
Yeah.
what it is. That
Well, thanks.
every one of those people would say that is their ethnic cultural cuisine.
No, I love it, and as I applaud you because we're a dying breed. People who are just gonna use certain words and not be fearful. Let me jump. This has been such a great chat, man. Thank you. And I'm gonna go to the chat and see if there's some questions. You brought up uh, 70 years ago is when we really started culturally doing this thing of, you know, you deserve to have anything and as much of it as you want. And I get it. And I know there's some people who are saying, well, anything other than that is communism and socialism. And so there's a whole discussion there. But we need to rebalance it. And I love what you said that if you just eat in season and you think about that, or even try to mostly eat in season,
Yeah.
no one's gonna, you know, but if you just can cut it back a bit, just dial it back, Americans especially, and I am going to say Americans because we're only 4% of the world's population, but we consume on the order of 50% of the resources, higher of certain resources.
Yeah, depending on which resources.
Exactly. So we've got to look at that. So having said that, the beauty of eating in season and the beauty of, for instance, if people want to go do some research, macrobiotic diet, which there's some things about it that are good, some things I don't care for. I did it for a little while. I know a lot about macrobiotic. There's some incredible things about it, and it brings a lot of Japanese foods into your life. It brings a lot of simplicity. But what it does bring is that seasonal thing, because that's one of the first things you learn about macrobiotic. You eat in the winter and the fall, you eat certain squash, certain things like wild rice, certain types of greens. In the summer, you do things with apricots and with vegetables that are summer. So I think Pete raised so many amazing points, but that's one, folks, that you can start working on right now. It's May. We're in that season where, just start thinking about it. Look for that farm market, look for that local food, and kind of say, you know what? We never eat this stuff but I like it. I just never get it. But it's in season now, and you'll find that maybe you go, "Hey, let's eat a bit more of this green or this kind of thing." So, so I wanted to say on that thing of thinking about the 30s, 40s, 50s. going back even earlier, we watched a remarkable documentary. I just put it in the chat. It's called Riding the Rails. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Wow. It's about how in the 20s, when the economy was collapsing, all of these, mostly young men, a couple of young women, but it wasn't safe for them, but mostly young men started jumping on trains.
Yeah, hobos.
Hobos, right? And they go over they were called 2 or 3 different things.
I don't think that's socially correct either, but
Yeah, exactly. But they were called that, and it's great because they addressed that in this documentary. Stunning documentary because there's footage from the 20s.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's so good. I'm going to put it up on the screen. The footage is fantastic, and they talk about the economy and also the scarcity that these folks faced.
They were out of work.
You didn't know where you was going to find a job.
And out on their own.
That trip on the road in 1936 changed my life in the way I view the world that I live in.
Riding the rails.
We thought it was the magic carpet, you know.
Oh, yeah, you never get over that. It's dangerous, that's why it's fun.
On American Experience.
Sorry, so the 30s, right? But wow, remarkable and great footage. That trailer didn't even do it justice. But they touch on this idea of how absolutely poor these people were. And what's really amazing, and this is a whole other 3-hour talk, race in America, what we're going through, all this. What's mind-blowing to me is there was a lot of black people right amongst white people getting on trains. Everyone was poor. It was the 30s. And they were like, we need to go to San Francisco. I hear there's jobs. We need to get on. This train goes to Chicago. I'm leaving here, Arkansas, Kansas, Utah, Georgia. And it's really beautiful because there's a lot of black people and they talk to some people. I think this doco is about 20 years old. Some of the people were alive. They've men in their 80s they're talking to. And the black guys say, yeah, when the train was going through Alabama, though, we had to hide. And, so, there's no, let's not sugarcoat this.
Yeah.
But also it was inspiring to see how people that had it tough just had it tough. And they all were nattily dressed, man, with suits and good hats and shoes. Very interesting. But it fits into what we're talking about here because they talked a lot about seasonal work, and some of them would go. They would be taking a train, because they knew there was apple picking jobs in the summer.
Go to the Northwest and pick apples.
That's right, and then
the valley.
But then some of them would take a train to the South to pick potatoes because that was it. So in this movie, you'll see that people were moving around America based on agriculture.
Yeah,
and so it's very germane to our conversation. I know I said I'd look for some questions. Now I really will, folks. So those of you who said, I asked a question 20 minutes ago. So let me look through real quick. Sabine says, Star Trek tool. Oh, yeah, in Star Trek, they had the composter. You're right.
Yeah.
And so you're right. Sabine's right. All the answers, folks, are in Star Trek.
The Star Trek banana peel.
That's right. Sabine also says she's in Germany, I think in Berlin. She says, we have compost, yellow for plastic, a black container for trash, brown for compost, blue bin for paper, and extra bins for glass, divided as brown, red, and green. I mean, and I would assume, I don't know this for a fact, but just knowing Germany like I do, I bet they have a way higher percentage of this stuff ending up turned into stuff that becomes roads or becomes,
or new products.
New product, or
that's the
park bench lumber.
That's the core is quality. I mean, we didn't really. I'm kind of glad we didn't get too tied up in the recycling technology and that. But I mean, that's what a system. We tend to mix all of our recyclables together and pulling them back apart is a nightmare.
Yes,
separation at the point of generation or point of collection is the way to do it. And we've seen those. We've all been in, you and I have definitely all been in. We've been in those airports, and there's like 7 bins. Or you
amazing
go to the grocery store, and there's like 13 bins outside the door. They have a center for it. It's in the sheltered. People get in there, drop their stuff.
I love it. And when we land in other places, and we've talked about this, you land in some of these countries. And this isn't just Europe, folks. I I landed in Guyana, where I'm from. 2 years ago, I landed in Chile, Peru, Paraguay. I saw this over and over. Not only do you see like a whole long thing of brown glass, white glass, paper, corrugated paper, plastic. In the third world, in the developing world is the proper term. But also, and this irks me when I fly back home, you get a free fucking luggage cart. It's so annoying when you fly back to the States and you're like, I don't have, where's my credit card? It's in the, I gotta get a cart. Really?
I gotta swipe.
$5? Oh man. And in all these other places, even these poor countries, because you just spent $1,000 on a plane ticket, or your boss did or something, you get a damn luggage cart. So that's my rant for the hour. But again, it's very funny. We have privatized everything. We have monetized everything. We don't leave a fucking grain of sand in this culture that's public, and this gets to it. Because public space, public farming, public gardens, which Pete brought up, you try to do that, and it's uphill in this country because someone says, well, if they're growing apples in the downtown park, they're not buying mine. Well, that's
right.
Tough titties. You can. Having said that, there is a great explosion, and I'm sure you know this, in public fruit trees and public gardens and stuff. Have you been seeing that? Across America,
we see like community and collective. We see farming that's happening on. This is not new. This obviously goes to the co-op, produce co-ops, farming co-ops. Whether you're getting a share, right, where you sign up, you're paying like a subscription and getting, the produce box, every week or whatever. Which is a fantastic program, right? And you're dealing directly with your local farmer. So why not do that? You're going to get great produce.
Yeah.
It's also there's other things that, there's so much to get over that, we have so many, this could go on literally.
Yes. No, what I want to do is
it's definitely about that. It's about who's doing what near you and get involved in that.
Yes. I love it. One thing I love, and I want to say this, is we got to do this again. This is great because you and I talk all the time. We're, and we've created music together. We've done a lot together, but we've never done this. And this is really a blast. And also, I'm hearing here that we could, I'd love to have you back and we could pick any of these topics and really drill down into the math and what's happening out there. So thank you for coming on today. Let's, again, jumping back to some questions. So Frank Bellina says, yes, where he lives in Pennsylvania. To your point, Pete, a single stream with glass, cardboard, metal containers, and then people put bags in there which jam up the works. Sharon is saying, why can't that happen in the U.S.? Exactly. Because, well, a lot of reasons. Let's see. Okay, great. John Oliver link about plastics.
Yes. That was fantastic. Great. If you watch anything, watch that.
I did see that. I love him. I get a lot of my news. Well, I read a lot of news. I listen to NPR. I watch Face the Nation once a week. But otherwise, I read a lot. But the things I watch are Trevor Noah, John Oliver. I need a little sugar to let the nightmare news go down.
The John Stewart family tree just keeps giving, man.
Seth Meyers is great. So anyway, let's see. Sharon says, know someone in rural Illinois burnt all their trash. Okay, not with the routine. Which brings to mind, I'm watching all these pictures. Our heart goes out to our family, our folks, our friends in India. What a nightmare. Yeah. This thing is hitting the fucking fan. And I watch these parking lots turned into crematoriums, and I'm thinking, but you tell me as a biologist, as a trained in chemistry, that's not okay, right? Just inhaling ash of human bodies by the thousands. Is that? Tell me, am I?
It's. I mean, first of all, I believe there's a cultural tradition, a funeral pyre tradition.
Oh, of course.
Here's the thing.
But not in parking lots times 20,000. Yeah.
This discussion from both sides, which is necessity.
Yeah.
they're doing it out of necessity. I would not be getting on when you're in the middle of a pandemic that's kicking you like that. I mean, the public health concern is the pandemic.
Yeah.
So
Don't-
I wouldn't. I would say that is there. I don't believe it would be a disease vector in that way.
oh, yeah.
Is it ideal? No.
Right.
Could it cause some problems? Yeah.
Okay.
Is it cause problems like, I mean, this has been, this past year has been like none other. I can't believe I've been able to live through it, because you've really gotten to see where rationality ends.
Thank
and
you.
How far people will go to protect turf at the expense of reality.
Dude, it's
Like I'll tell you something. I've had people trying to sell me on ideas like people don't take enough zinc or vitamin B, and I'm like, brother, if you have a novel virus that your body's never seen, like zinc and vitamin B are not going to pull you out.
yeah.
Like this is if you look at the actual COVID reaction, it is an autoimmune freak out.
Exactly.
It's not the kind of thing where it's like, rub some dirt on it and walk it off.
Yeah.
This is not the sort of thing that the whole concept is. It's not something that immune systems are in general prepared for.
Because it's zoonotic.
Yeah.
You and I talk about this.
So if you could see that the irrationality in an emergency like that is so fractured, that these other concepts that we're discussing about what do we do with our trash and why do we buy so much food that gets trucked halfway across the globe, this is the culture of examining what and why needs a booster shot.
No, you're right. That's
because
wow. What a great.
Because there's so many. Like I started off by saying, the system the way we manage materials, waste materials, whatever you want to call them, is fractured, right? It is like the craziest. Nobody would ever design it like that. We're just kind of stuck with it. And we're kind of stuck with a situation where you can kind of believe whatever you want, and there's no developing consensus. You have a lot of people who are heavily invested in not having a consensus, and it's as true in the solid waste sector as it is in the public health sector.
Fantastic. No, that people, this is like drop-in science hour, the first show of May, and that's what we're doing here. That's what Pete's doing. I'm kicking.
No, you are
a science football around. And let me clarify too. When I asked that question, and this is for folks, I know you know this, Pete. Not in any way was I saying. There we go. Not in any way was I. Is that a micrometer?
No, it's just a plastic caliper that was
caliper. Okay.
I figured a little.
In no way, folks, was I saying these Indians, they're burning bodies, and no, that wasn't my vibe. I was saying it from a place of kind of like, fuck, this is so bad that yes, they're careful, beautiful traditional thing of the beautifully built pyre and everything, which I know about, is now reduced to parking lots and back lots, and they're trying to. What's that? Emergency measure. They're trying to keep up. So, but I love what you said though, that this year, and I would just append that it's been like no other in our century. Yeah. But that's the thing, as you well know, that's the problem. No one's studying the Black Death or the smallpox outbreaks or even the pandemic 100 years ago. I'm telling people, just go read about this stuff. It might give you some perspective that Mother Nature, you cannot control this just because you feel angry that you haven't been to the bar in 6 months.
Right.
It's
savage.
Dude, it's rationality. I love what you said there. Okay, back to some questions. Thank you, Sharon. Biodynamic. Yes, that's the name, Pete. So you had organic stuff, and then there was biodynamic. I remember there was a brand of yogurt.
It's actually biodynamic wines. That's what they've done to reduce the chemical fertilizer footprint or eliminate it in the wine industry.
Absolutely. As do the good organic wines. The biodynamic go even further though. They're doing stuff, you
Well,
know,
they're also planting crops they're actually planting other crops in with it that
yes,
are, if we plant this, it prevents these pests. If we
absolutely.
plant
And
this, it-
and um and the words overlap because a good organic farmer is doing that too. They're using
yeah,
beneficial pests and growing things that certain birds would eat that eat and then you have ladybugs and so true organic because that's a whole other thing we haven't even talked about. That word has been abused to
yeah,
the point of and as a chemist, as a biologist, you know that the first annoying thing is any carbon-based compounds are organic. So you have a whole diversity there where
yeah, that's a
the word
yeah, that's
gets
a that's abuse.
yeah the word gets. But here we are. But okay, so I mean the system is expensive. People don't separate waste. Exactly. Cook food, milk, yogurt in the compost. Right. You should not. Exactly. Robin says, "Let's hear it for another great Italian." she
Hey,
was she said this morning, we haven't listened to any Zappa in a while, which is shocking in this household, which means on the order of days and
yeah,
not weeks. So I said, yeah, and I put some on, and then I was doing some other stuff, getting ready for the show and doing some things, and I'm listening upstairs, and I said to her, I said, I've picked the right woman. Are you asking for a ring today? Because you'll love this, Pete. What I could hear upstairs, the music was on, and Robin was humming the I think it was in 5 or 7. She was humming the bass line, the cello parts in Sinister Footwear.
mm-hmm,
And I was like, yeah, this is the right woman. She
yeah,
knows all the lyrics to, whatever popular songs you can say, but she's right there with the fucking, the part in Sinister Footwear.
yeah,
And I heard it upstairs. I'm like, she's cooking, and casually, the part her brain picked is like the part that where you see Scott Tunis furrowing his brow
right, yeah.
and going, she loves Zappa. We love Zappa, and another great
I mean,
Italian.
I think if I have it right, and obviously Robin knows whether I'm right or not, but I believe that I bumped into them on their first trip, her and debutante Daisy,
Right.
their first trip to Zappanale. And I just remember her hearing a familiar accent. And I was like, where are you guys from? You know how that is exactly there. It's like they're
Oh, that's when you
at the
met.
time. I mean, my first one was 05, and I think that might have been 07, something like that.
Right. No, totally. And they went for like a few days before touring around, I think Hungary and
Right.
uh,
Yeah.
Holland or something.
It's just amazing that is, and I'd like to wrap on this because I know I'd like to do it again. I'd like to do another.
Yeah, sure.
I'll just say that the cascade of the past 20 years where I really got back into bass playing, and I ended up bumping into an opportunity to play in Dr. Dark, the Beefheart Trib Band,
Right.
Bill Saunders and Steve Chalemi, Joey Nolan, and Travis Mood Ring. And we really that I had no understanding at all that Zappa tribute bands existed. I had no idea that Zappa festivals happened. I had no idea that anybody played Captain Beefheart music. I had actually heard rumor from a local record store owner that there was a Beefheart band, and I told him I will believe it when I see it. And 2 years later, I was playing in it. So that's kind of crazy. And that's how I got to see PO, and that's how I got to meet you, and then that got me to Zappanale, and that's how I bumped into Robin and know all these other wonderful people that have just been, so central to that experience. And it's not just people you bump into, it's a really long lasting, like you and I, like if we don't talk for 6 months, we see each other, it's like we just talked 5 minutes ago. And that's really beautiful, and there's nothing to replace that. But I would just say that the weirdest part is that this music that I would listen to mostly on my own, I probably only knew 2 other people that could tolerate Zappa music, which I never understood. But and then I suddenly find out there's a community, and then that community is exactly what I thought it would be. Like, I actually found out that these people are intensely curious and intensely passionate and really into what they do at whatever they do. So, this is just such a great nugget off of what has been like just a sled ride of, cool music and cool people.
No, that's couldn't put it better. And
cannot thank you enough.
no, couldn't put it better. And I appreciate your time so much. So many great comments. People are loving this. People have voted. I think that you should come back on. I'm going to wrap with, I'll just send you this personally, but one of the things, again, New York Times has just been on fire with some of this stuff, but they did a great article talking about this explosion. Again, so they mentioned
delicious.
They mentioned this place
Exactly
Rind in New York.
Yeah.
And what's great about this is, again, you have people who've made dairy cheeses, and they know what cultures, what bacteriums can do. And what's remarkable is those cheeses really are, it's about the fermentation, it's about the bacterium. All you're doing is changing the substrate. You're changing and so I tell you, man, some of this stuff, and you know me, if it sucks, it sucks. I would say, yeah, kind of rubbery, kind
Yes.
of, and it was my life, it was my job, and I would say out of 20 cheeses back in 1995 or something, vegan, out of 20 of them, 3 or 4 were really, really good. You know, the problem is the 17 that were bad is what someone tried at a Thanksgiving dinner or something, and it killed the vibe. I used this example the other day in my I do a guitar effects meetup, and I was saying all the people who are anti-modeling and anti-helix and all this, same thing like the cheese, because they played really bad modelers 15 years ago. Right. And they just have that memory, like, yeah, it does, it's not. And I'm like, no, you got to hear a Kemper or an Axe Effects or a Helix. Right. So the cheese is very much the same. Like, folks, forget the tofuti that your weird cousin made. No, really, it's now a whole other thing, and it's international. You have this happening in all the cheese making capitals. There's some French people doing this. There's some places in England. In Italy, there's a mozzarella that blew my mind. Robin made a vegan mozzarella, and the rubbery aspect of mozzarella, the kind of, holy crap, dude, I can't believe it. But now, I know it's sacrilege to ask you this, but have you tried like a vegan mozzarella, like a handmade artisan one?
It's not there's no sacrilege. The funny thing is that,
I say that kidding. Yeah.
But I think that always cracks me up, because there are things that you'll see very strong reactions by, in my case, Italians freaking out over something that is new.
Right.
But the other side of the coin is that these are the same people that adopted this bizarre vine fruit from the New World and turned it into the centerpiece of a large portion of their cuisine. So this is
exactly
like an affectation.
Thank you.
Because they've taken food from all over the world that's not theirs and turned it into theirs. So they're cool. There's and that idea of there's a thing about that which is a little different, is that if you so much, again, that local food, they have personal connections in many cases. I'm obviously out in the countryside more, but they have connections with these local producers, and if you could get screamingly fresh cheese like locally, and somebody comes over to you with a cheese made out of something else, you're going to be skeptical, right? I mean, that's that's not just, it's not just a food stuff. It's again, it's part of your culture.
Yeah.
It makes it very difficult to break down. I'm lactose intolerant. I haven't eaten dairy in 20 years. So like, and I'm more than familiar with everything that is not dairy.
Sure. And it's getting it. You've seen the curve too, right? It's just getting better and better.
Total like choke it down not milks to, fantastic, really,
Yeah.
really, really good products.
It's
And
getting
super good
crazy.
variety.
I-
Just great variety.
I love how you just put that too with your response to and you knew I was kidding, but what a beautiful response that and I love that when people get the preciousness of their ethnicity, myself included. When people from Guyana or Jamaica or Trinidad say some precious bullshit about, well, we invented this or that, I go, no, that came from here, that came from there. We changed things. The other beautiful thing is the antiquity, and I'm big on that. And to your point, and I showed it before, in the 1400s, folks, there was almond milk, there was cashew milk. Leonardo da Vinci, very famous Italian, very famous vegetarian.
Another great Italian.
Yeah, and a vegetarian hundreds of years ago. And there's a cookbook. You ever see the cookbook abstracts from him?
Oh,
They're
no,
on the
I
web.
didn't expect that.
Yeah. So he invented lots of gadgets. As you know, he had a little hand grinding machine to press the juice of apples. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had another thing that ground up nuts and cashews to make butters.
Got it.
The dude was so, and he made a milk from chickpeas
Yeah.
and a soup base actually.
Yeah.
So his writings are out there, and one of the other things in one of the anecdotal stories he talks about going to, he was a very famous scientist at that point, but he would go to these royal events and stuff, and there's the pig with the apple in its mouth and all this, and he said I ate everything else. There was grapes, artichokes, kind of, but it's great to read about that stuff because again it reinforces to people that are trying this out that you're not a freak for thinking about food. Michael Pollan reinforces this. He's always talking about history and how we've always taken the Chinese cuisine is another example. They've always taken a sweet potato and said, well, if we bake it and marinate it, and then it's kind of like chicken. And so people that get mad at that need to understand you're getting mad at something that's 4,000 years old.
Right.
Humans eat things.
Yeah.
And it's based on seasons.
Find a way to make it delicious.
It's based on seasons and availability and all that. So I know you got to go. I'm going to end on one more thing that I'll stick around. If you have to jump off, that's fine. But I want to share with people this wonderful thing you've shared with us of G-Zen.
Yeah.
Which looks great. And I saw something on these chefs.
That picture right there has their vegan Parmigiano on it, their vegan grating cheese up at the top. They make they're just once again that's sort of there's nothing that they make that isn't delicious. So there's no hair shirt cuisine there. There's nothing like it's good for you, just do it.
Exactly. Which I've never subscribed to, which is I love that things have come around. No, I love this, and I love that you pointed out again. I saw an article on the chefs. There was and I remember these two, and you might have even sent it to me. Maybe Mark and Amy, and again, I love that. That's a great point. It's not like eat this because it's good for you. It's delicious. It's cross-cultural. It's a way to find. Oh, there's David Wolf. Okay, the raw foods guy. Just another resource, folks. I'll put that in the chat. And one of the many things that Pete has turned us on to today. And as I said, I gave some links there to the other things, the movie and stuff like that. Pete, I know you got to go. Thanks, man, dude.
Thank you. Such a great time, and thanks anybody who is listening, anybody who's following along, anybody who catches this after it's live. Thanks so much for sticking with it, and whatever of it you caught was interesting. That's awesome, and thanks a ton.
It'll stay up here on my Facebook, and people can keep commenting.
Right.
But yeah, people, a lot of love for you. A lot of people really enjoyed this.
That's awesome.
And the science is
science.
That's the part. So talk to you soon, bro.
Talk to you soon. Have a great one.
Yeah, love to Sandy, love to you both, and
love to you,
just
Robin.
Yep. Talk to you soon. Bye. Folks, wow. that was, you know, what's cool about life is when you don't plan shit too much. And I, as you could tell, Pete's a dear friend, and we were just in touch this morning and just talking about some other stuff, and just talking about other stuff, and we started talking about garbage, and somehow we got onto recycling and garbage, and we were having a conversation as we have for 2 decades almost. And I said, wait a minute, what are you doing it between, this time and this time? Come on and give us your, your very informed, very scholarly outlook on some of this stuff. Again, he works in one of the environmental departments of Connecticut, and really knows what he's talking about, as you can tell, but has a passion for what's happening with our garbage, with our waste, the food waste, the plastic waste, the paper waste, the landfill waste, and ways you can look at it. So I learned a lot there. I had a lot of things that I hadn't thought about in years come back, and I had a lot of new things, and I had a lot of reinforcement of keep doing this, do less of that, do more of that. And I hope you did too, because, that's, I think he's got it down, which is present this stuff with a sense of humor, with a sense of, hey, let's roll up our sleeves and have a nice dinner at the same time. So let me go back. I'm going to get out of here in a couple minutes, but I just always see if I missed any questions. Sabine is talking about these unwrapped shops. Yeah, I love that idea. I think she's gone, but to just bring that up, this idea of bringing your own packing to the supermarket. I love it. And I love when I'm shopping in Europe, you can very easily find these places where you better have brought a bag, and things are in bulk, and you can get your own paper bag and buy some Brazil nuts or something. That's my best day, when I'm walking around in Madrid or Berlin or Tokyo or somewhere. And I go to all these places to work, folks. I'm not loaded. I'm not like flying around the planet, to be a tourist. I'm at work, and I'm out with some artist or another. And if I'm very lucky, there's a day off. Usually I'm not lucky. Usually you're in Budapest and you don't see anything except the drive to the airport to hotel, hotel to gig, gig to hotel, hotel to airport. But if you're lucky, there's day off, or at least even 2 or 3 hours. And that's the money shot for me. That's where you, can you say that anymore? I don't even know what you could say anymore. But I said tough titties before, and I went, I don't know if I could say that. And Sabine, who had not heard that, she's still learning English. She said, oh, I didn't hear that one. So, but, the money shot is when you get to walk around and shop in the little shops, the little stores, all the stuff Pete was talking about, that old world vibe, whether it's Kingston, Jamaica, Tokyo, Reykjavik, Iceland, Santiago, Chile. I go like that, but I'm not religious. But that's the ancient symbol of just thank you, gratitude. I just give gratitude to, my parents for getting me here for this crazy ride, but just I'm grateful that in my work, in my job, I get to have these experiences. Tel Aviv, Dublin. Wow, these places I've been able to eat and to find out that, yep, very easy to be a plant-based human being. And all of that, folks, inspires me to do this every week, because I really want to, if one person gets inspired, and I love that there's so many of you, if one person's inspired, then it's successful. So let's see, other comments. The unpacked shops. There was a episode, a skit on what's the show? Portlandia. They did a thing on some store. They always poke fun at hippies, and it's great. I love it. On organic health with people and all that. But they did this one skit where the guy goes to the shop, and there's no bags, no containers, nothing. So you have to like hold the rice in your hands, and very funny. But there is a, there's a serious segment to that. People are talking about packaging. Yes, yes. And as Robin says, packaging, the manufacturers unload. I know it's, so let's keep buying less. We do pretty well at keeping it, the thing is, we focus on making sure things are recyclable, but as Pete said, time to rethink that. All they're doing at your curb is collecting. What happens next? So I'm going to be looking more into my local recycling programs. What happens? How efficient is it? I'm lucky. We're in a very blue, very lefty, progressive kind of environmental city, Asheville, North Carolina. We can go to a farm market every single day, and we give thanks. That is not true for all of you. We live in a temperate rainforest. That's the temperature gradation of where we live. So everything grows here. I mean, apples and pears and peaches grow nearby. Every type of kale, chard, lettuce, broccoli rabe, all the kind of green things grow here. Um, you know, Grains grow here. Rices and wheats and things come from this state. Soybeans come from this state. We have a local tempeh producer. We have one of the best miso and tamari producers right here, 6 miles, 5 miles from here. I've had them on the show, the miso master people, about 8 months ago. I had them on the show. Remember that? Some of you might have been here. They showed a video of making miso from scratch right here. So very fortunate. Gaia Herbs, the incredible internationally known herbal company, is right here, just the next town over, and they grow a vast amount of their herbs right here in Brevard, North Carolina. The climate is incredible for that, and again, 2,000 to 3,000 feet above sea level in a temperate rainforest. I'm not kidding. That is our designation. A couple years ago, we had the second most rainfall in the United States. Number one was Hilo, Hawaii. We were number two around here. So it sucks when water comes in my basement, just right here. But I'm solving that. But it's really great for the water, the rain, the climate, and I do understand that that's not true for a lot of people. But I'm just saying that to say that I'm inspired after this guest today to 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 eat even more local. Tomorrow's the farm market. You know what? Actually, tomorrow I'm going to get some footage, and I'll use it next week of our farm market. And it's a beautiful farm market. And what I'm loving too is the diversity I'm starting to see. There's an Asian woman selling some of her stuff. There's some black farmers that are coming in from the local area. White people, black people, Hispanic. There's a Latina woman who is making tamales, and she's doing. They're all vegetarian, like 90% vegan. An incredible farm market. I think I have a picture here. So I'm gonna. I missed it last week, but this episode has been empowering for me to really lean in harder. I can walk and go get some kale. That's really something to not take for granted, because I know for a lot of people that's not true. Those of you that it is true, if it's a quick drive or a bike ride or a walk, I urge you, let's do our part. We all register and vote. There is a vote. You can register and vote with your dollar and buy something local this week. Sure, it might be $1 more per pound, or it doesn't matter. Pay that money, because you're keeping that dollar in the circle. You're keeping it, locally. So I have on the screen right now, as I'm talking, Gaia Herbs, and look at that, huh? I've never been, but I really should go and do a walk through there and see how the echinacea is grown, and 250 acres of land. This is one, and as it says there, we're one of the most diverse bioregions in the continent. And so they make Gaia Herbs, if you know, is an incredible company, and it was one of our main companies when we had our natural food store. And things like echinacea and dandelion, burdock root, ginkgo biloba, which is an incredible plant-based substance for its antioxidant usage and for circulatory health and all kinds of things. Hawthorn, which is so healthy for the heart. So Gaia focuses on all these fantastic things, and you've probably seen them if you're a health food store kind of a person. They have all these compounds. There's their mushroom adaptogens package. There's ginseng. So this is right here, and I'm really happy to always support them. But just some stuff, hopefully to inspire you where you are. Find out what's local and go for it. I wanted to hold that up. This is the so this is the Latina woman who has a table at our farm stand. I'm going to go tomorrow, folks, and pick some of this up. And what I love about this, when I met her about 5-6 years ago, she had one or maybe two vegan items, and she didn't have many items. Maybe she had 5, and like one of them was vegan, maybe 2. And I said, "Oh wow, what's in this one?" She would say, "Just a little butter, just a little." And I'd say, "Okay." And to play devil's advocate, I said, "If it's just a little, then why bother?" And she would kind of laugh. I haven't seen her in years. I go there last week. Holy crap. So this woman has gone vegetarian, gone vegan because of her health. She's lost weight. She says she's healthier now. It's an amazing story. And because of, I imagine, the demand and people asking every week, look at what she's done. She's expanded her menu to be 100% vegetarian, no flesh at all, and most of it vegan. Absolutely remarkable. And more than that, her life has been transformed. This woman, who is just wonderful, amazing spirit, her name is Maria. She's fantastic. I practice a little of my bad Spanish with her. And she's great. She's very helpful, says, "Oh, the word for that is this." But anyway, you get the picture. I'm going to be eating some arepas tomorrow, or empanadas. Love those. But I can walk there, whether I will or not. I might do it running some other errands. But just fortunate to have that option. Let's see here. So wrapping up again, just going to look at one or two other things. Let's see, Facebook. All right, let's see if there's any. Raymond says, "Why do I get the feeling that Pete makes music?" Because you're right, Raymond. You might have met Pete because he lives in Connecticut and you're always there at the Toad's Place and those kind of places. Pete's always there. Pete and Sandy are always there. And you've seen that Captain Beefheart band open up for us. He makes music with the drummer, and so you're exactly correct. He's a great bass player, synthesist, experimental music guy, plays in all these projects. I think there's a New Haven, what's it called? The New Haven Music Collective or Jazz Collective. He's part of that, and so you sniffed it out, Raymond. He's another weirdo, ne'er-do-well musician, and that's what I like to hang out with. Sharon Rudolph, how are you? Sharon, I'm so sorry we didn't attend your stream the other day. It was on a Saturday, and I had like probably 3 minutes, and I should have came on for that long, but I apologize. And please invite us again. My Saturdays are bonkers because I do a Patreon stream and I teach, but I heard it was really cool. So good to see you. Sharon saying she kept her 04 till just a decade. Exactly. These are good fucking phones, man. They worked great until I dropped it. And again, wrapped into our discussion there about consumerism is, what are we doing lining up every year to get the brand new, just get a phone, but be respectful that you're living on top of the planet and you don't have to get the new one the day it comes out. Just that sort of thing. And again, it's so hard to not sound preachy and I'm certainly not perfect. I'm certainly working on shit all the time. But that's one that we can do, is consume a little less. Sharon listens to NPR every day. I hear you. No, likewise. I reach over, hit that radio. Ben Davis, thank you, man. What's this? New York Times new vegan menu at 11 Madison Park. The restaurant will no longer serve meat or seafood when it reopens. Wow, look at that. And the chef says the current food system is simply not sustainable. That is amazing. And then again, it's what we're seeing. We are midstream, folks, to this evolution. And people can like it or not. There's no choice. This is a train that has left the station. We cannot sustain. We cannot do what we've been doing. We cannot use the rainforest, the precious lungs of the planet, so that Americans have dirt cheap meat. There, I said it. That's unfortunately what we've put a lot of our resources, and not just the rainforest, the incredible land in the American Midwest, the arable land, that the dust bowls that we've created. Of course, dust bowls can happen as part of natural climate, but we've helped create them by monocropping. Pete was talking about that. That means when you grow the same fucking crop year after year after year after year in the same spot, what happens is you drain the soil of particular minerals, of particular compounds that corn might need, or wheat might need, or soybeans. These are wonderfully healthy foods, but if you only grow that, it's destructive. And why would you only grow something year after year after year after year? Because you're basing your model on nothing but profit, nothing but this insatiable machine. Then you get to the whole thing that we're feeding most of this soybeans and some other grains and some of the corn into a cow, shipping it, feeding it to the cow, killing the cow, getting a fraction of the calories, the food energy that we just, processed into from the fields. It's just insane. And what I love, though, is the wake up has happened, and company after company is looking at this. Here's a restaurant, and my dear friend Ben Davis, he was on the show about 2 months ago. When I had all the bass players, remember that, the plant-based day where we did all bass players. And the link is in the chat. I'll put it there again. But what a great article. I'm going to read this later. Highly acclaimed Manhattan restaurant, 11 Madison Park. Wow. I've seen that name, never eaten there, but that's like a serious, the owner and chef, one of the owners, Daniel Hume or Hum, he said after the coronavirus and after all the closures and the layoffs, they've sat and reimagined their future. And they've always been concerned about the impact on surroundings, he says, but it's becoming clear that the current food system is not sustainable. Wow. And so they've spent their time developing new dishes and meat and dairy alternatives, plant-based milks, butters and creams based on plants, flavorful vegetable broths and stocks, and fermented foods. What at first felt limiting began to feel freeing, and we're only scratching the surface. What a great, right? Because that's the thing, folks. Some people scroll right past this every week because they don't want to hear, I like bacon and I'm going to eat my burgers. My whole time as a vegetarian, I've always wondered about, like, what's the anger? No one's telling you what to do, but maybe, and some vegans do that kind of shit. I don't, but don't put it on me. But I'm always puzzled by that, because all we're saying is, here's one more thing to eat. Have that burger, but maybe try the organic buffalo burger. That's the other funny thing. I've dealt with some meat eaters where you're even telling them to eat another meat, but you're suggesting, like, can we stop feeding the Archer Daniels Midland kind of Tyson pork giant mechanical machine? Can we simplify? Can we eat? And there's an interesting pushback. Great article. Great to see this, that it's happening. And in the article, they talk about the Michelin Guide, right? The famous kind of you know, stuffed shirt, foodie Bible, as it were. They gave their first star to a 100% vegan place in France called Ona, near Bordeaux. Now, folks, I don't have to belabor that point, but if you're winning awards in France with vegan cooking, you know that the fucking game is on. And I've been to France many times and had amazing vegan food. I mean, the chefs, they're French chefs. The stuff they've brought me, like little roadie, little crew guy, and you see the chef come out. Who's the vegetarian? And there's actually like 4 or 5 of us. Some are vegetarian, some are vegan. Steve Howe, my boss, is vegetarian, and on that cruise, sometimes it's like 8 of us. You know, if the tour is big enough. But they come out with this food in France. The stuff French people throw together. When you watch it, you're like, wait, how is there leeks? And wait, is that an artichoke? Where did you get this? And they can do anything. And the cliche is all French food has butter and cream. Lots of it does. I'm not going to whitewash that, of course. And they're very proud of it because their butter and cream is exquisite. It's not necessarily certified organic, but they're largely getting very healthy, cow udder effluent. It's a big difference. But if you're in France and you're, winning awards doing vegan food, then the game is on. So that's cool. So great article. Thank you, Ben Davis. When was that? That article was an hour ago. I'm going to put it back again. New York Times, new menu, famous Manhattan. That's really cool. Thank you, Ben. Ben's probably not still here. That was an hour ago. But okay, racing through your questions, then I'm out of here. I got to get back to some music. I got some video editing and my Patreon. I always forget to bring that up. I got some Patreon stuff. There are people in rural areas that are paid device recharging techs. Yeah, there you go. All kinds of new careers. Andre's Psychedelic Supper. Yes, they all are, Frank. Thank you. Thank you, Ben. We love that show, Ben. How I built this. Robin turned me on to that show. It's fantastic. The rise of wheat. Why is it so dominant? Because it's cheap. It's easy to grow. It's pretty resistant to a lot of things. So it just, yeah. I think the cheapness in 100 years ago, and then once they realized they could bleach it and it lasts forever. Wow. Industrial food corporations love nothing better than an ingredient that doesn't go bad. So I've read a lot about wheat and grains and American food production, as you can imagine. Just realizing I haven't hydrated. I've been drinking coffee here and there, but no plastic. I do drink our tap water. Here's my way to save plastic. Thank you, Taylor Rose Ellsworth, for this gift, because this is the gift that keeps on giving. Our tap water is pretty good here, and I get a little chlorine, I get a little fluoride. What are you going to do? We're going to die. It's microcellular levels. But it's a choice, all that plastic. And I'll buy I'll buy a bottle of Poland Spring from time to time. But it's about, here's what it's about. And this makes people, I think, it helps the despair. Just think about it. Like Pete talked about thought exercise before. Think about it and say, you know what? There's 52 weeks in the year. Because I'm commuting or whatever, and you could do a quick calculation, you could say, you know what? I buy 5 bottles of Poland Spring a week, and I get on the train or the bus or in my car. At 52 weeks, let's say you work, I don't know, let's call it 45. That's 225 bottles, right? Did I do the math right? It's a lot of bottles, you know. But if you can say to yourself, I'm done with that and I'm going to go to one of these things, but I'll buy a plastic bottle when I'm going to the movies or something. If you can take that 200 and some bottles and say, okay, now I'm buying just a dozen plastic bottles a year. See? That way you're not suicidal over like your destruction to the planet. You know you've done something that's mathematically real. But also, the idea is if we can get millions of people to do this, now we're talking. Because now we're taking millions of bottles out of the stream, so that's the thing, folks. That's why it's Meatless Monday. Notice it's not called Meatless Month or Meatless Week or something. It's just these little bites that you can take that make a difference. Frank Bellina says, what's the best pasta when looking at the glycemic index? That's a great question. And I try to cut my carbs, I'm promising myself I'm getting on the bike. I pulled the bike out and I just need to do a few things on it. Weather's getting, or now is good for biking. For me, you could bike year round, right? So I'm looking at carbs, Frank, and I'm always looking at the pastas. And, I'm going to say, and I always look at the carb versus protein. The best ones I've seen, and I talked to you about this one other time, that black soybean spaghetti. Wow. It's incredible. The texture, it cooks well, doesn't fall apart. It's exquisite. It's great in, I'll do a ramen. I'll do a very, just a rich coconut-based pan-Asian kind of a thing. I'll have some Japanese things in there, but also some Thai and Malaysian spices, whatever. And I'll put these noodles in there. Unbelievable meal. And wheat-free, gluten-free, of course, vegan. And those, so I'll get the brand for you, but there's a company that makes these black soybean spaghetti. That's amazing. Same company does a lentil. They do a lentil penne. They do a chickpea penne. There's a rice one. The glycemic index varies. The rice one's probably the highest. The chickpea one's probably next. The lentil one has a really good profile, the protein to carbs profile. Again, we're living in a renaissance of this non-grain pasta where you've got, I think, as I said this at the beginning of the show, when you have a lot of people working on the same problem, that's where you start getting some brilliant shit happening. Brian Eno calls it the scenius idea, right? Like the word scene combined with genius, right? Whereas the real amazing shit happens when it's a scene working on something. So, and he was talking about kind of avant-garde music and how he doesn't like to take the credit for ambient music or for looping or anything. But he says right around that time, I was hanging out with people who they were trying things with tape recorders, and this one over here is trying to make handmade synthesizers, and this one over here was recording nature sounds and slowing it down. So he always says that. He says, and he talks about U2 and all these groups he works with, and he says, each of these things, there was a scene happening. I think likewise in food, there's a scene around grain-free pasta on a global level now, driven in part by the gluten-free sort of thing, driven in part by people who truly are celiac diagnosed, and people who just know. They just know their body, and they know, yeah, I really feel like crap after a bag of pretzels or a pizza or a bagel or something. I love it. It's delicious, but I notice I don't feel great energy. And so people are realizing that wheat is overdone in our diet, in our culture. And so there's these actually great pastas happening. So hopefully I answered your question there, Frank, and I'll, just text me, but I'll remember this because I'm going to maybe go shopping later. And that brand of legume based pasta is something we'll follow up. Raymond says, see the new Stanley Tucci series about Italy. I know, I saw like a trailer of it. Yes, and exactly. He talks about the regions of Italy and how some had this, some had that. Rice, wheat, farro. They used almond flour. They used lentil flour. The funny thing is you can make flour out of a lot of things. Any bean, can be dried and ground, right? Any grain. And we just narrowed it all down, hundreds of choices, and we just narrowed it down to one fucking thing. Wheat, 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 wheat. Dairy, 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 dairy. And people wonder, why is America so sick? Why do we still have, the top things still killing us, which all can be traced to shitty fats, shitty grains, right? Animals that are poisoned to within an inch of their lives, hormones, steroids, all these things. Again, I have to put this caveat because someone out there is going to have butt hurt. Of course, there's lamb that's healthy. Of course, there's eggs and chicken that is healthy. Of course there is. But you have to really be going and looking for that. That's not what the vast majority of Americans are consuming. Okay, so when I go after it so hard, it's part of looking at the big numbers. So wheat is a huge part of food relief in Hungary. Yes, so they give wheat away. It's cheap. Again, it's dirt cheap. So we can virtue signal and say, wow, we sent a boatload of wheat to Zimbabwe, and in exchange, they signed away some mining rights and some rights for, access to their oil fields and minerals and everything. But we're the good guys. Yes, that's what happens a lot in Africa. So wasn't that part of the smart Americans, smart Europeans teaching the rest of the world? Yeah, that's a good point. So, okay, let me race through here because I'm still an hour back. So Frank Lena, yes, oatmeal consistency sperm. That's a song title. I did say that. I didn't make it up. Some comedian, I think Nikki Glazer. That's right. Nikki Glazer in one of the roasts was going after Baldwin, Alec Baldwin, and either him or Robert De Niro. I think it was Baldwin though. It's fucking hilarious. Right. She made a joke. I love when comedians do the twofer and they take down two people at once in the roast. Nikki Glazer, who I love, and is vegan. She's great. Her talk show is on point. Look it up. She's fucking hilarious. She does a little show, like a zoo kind of a thing with her and 2 or 3 people, and they have guests, and she's brilliant. She's really funny. And she talks about veganism sometimes. But anyway, she made this one joke about oatmeal, referring to how old Robert De Niro is and how he started drooling when she said the word oatmeal. The oatmeal comment was about Baldwin's sperm, and like, give it up, dude. Anyway, so that's a stolen one. I just wanted to attribute that. Sabine says Urweisen or Urgetreid. Eugetreid, Urweisen. Watch me butcher German. Anyway, it's ancient wheat, right? Because it's an older wheat, it's not as hybridized and all that stuff, right? Let's see. Okay, hurrying through here. Museums, people lived in the 9th century. Yeah, I love it. I love looking at some of the ancient stuff. We can learn a lot. Sharon says water became an issue. Crops need tons of water. Exactly. Exactly, Sabine. In times of war, you eat much more vegetarian. People just had to, it's funny. And they also during Mad Cow in England, there's a lot of stories of this in 91, 92, when they killed all of the cattle and the cows, and lots of people were eating vegetarian. And even when it started coming back, people were like, I'm not too sure. Did they figure this out? So people went vegetarian accidentally for a couple of years there. And I've read about this a number of times. Accidentally, people who had no interest in that idea realized they felt a little better, lost a little weight, this joint pain. So people reported all kinds of things. It depends on the human being, but people said, "No, my joints used to be, they were painful. My arthritis is gone." Yes, because arthritis is related to acidity and a very low pH, high acidic diet. So you get rid of that, and people with gout started feeling better. Like, wait, because uric acid, all of these things, cholesterol levels came down, heart disease, was impacted. So it's funny. It was like England went through a little war in that time, and good things happened. The good news in England, one of the greatest places to be right now to be vegetarian, I've been going there for years, is that the fallout of that 1991, 92 thing was hundreds of new companies opened up, all these things, not only Quorn, that's the well-known kind of meat substitute, not only did that blow up, but many, many other companies. So that's what's an example of kind of an unexpected Mother Nature reason to change, which we're going through right now. Raymond says, time has come today. Yes, that was the song in there. Kevin Ritchie, how are you, my bro? I thought I was on at the wrong time, bro, when you weren't here at the start of the show, but of course you have a life. Punk Rock Labs, that's great. Okay, that's a veg place. Let's see, racing through. Thank you so much, folks. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks for coming here on a Monday and just chilling with me and holding my feet to the fire and asking questions. What a great guest. Again, thank you, Mr. Pete Brunelli, my dear brother, my colleague. We've shared stages. We've played weird music together. We've played Hendrix and Frank Zappa together. We always talk about, man, let's put the old band together one of these days. But let's see. Frank Bellina. Let's see. Let's see. Fred Armisen, yes, great musician. Awesome. Frank Bellina, yes, Miyokos is amazing. So good. Guyana has so many languages. Well, the main one's English, but yes, in the hinterland, there's all kinds of stuff. Let's see. Okay. Well, thank you so much, folks. Sharon says chickpea penne. Yeah, love it. Right. You saw that. We were just talking about that. Great, Frank. Yeah, and I love that stuff. You know what? I meant to do a show on this a couple weeks ago. Someone sent me another article, but I'm going to put this on the notes for next week. The whole Frank Bellina, what you posted, eating less meat won't save the planet. I love that. I love that argument, and there's always a few things wrong with that argument. So I'll look at this one, and I know a lot of what's built into it. It's about consumption, which I do bring up all the time. If you're just going to go buy more and more products because they're vegan, that's number one problem. And number two is we're still shipping stuff around. And so there's all kinds of other resource management built into it. I know. But what eating less meat will immediately do is kill less animals. It'll kill less beautiful, sentient, incredible cows and lambs and chickens. And I know someone's going to say, "Well, how do you know a broccoli isn't sentient?" You're just trolling. It's just trolling because there's a difference, and I think these things may be sentient. I think mushrooms may be sentient, or they are. But there's a big difference in soil and what we're doing with resources. So I will watch that and I will rebut it next week. But for now, signing off, folks. Thank you so much. Thanks for asking great questions. Thank you, Pete Brunelli. He'll be back. And everybody have a